Fire Strays are going to be happy with that winning matchup, but I imagine some stock is going to go on the one-sided Loki, like Moxie mentioned for Fire Strays, but also Invisible Woman, as Nost and Close have been picking it up. This series might struggle to match what we just saw, but I think that there's going to be plenty of maps traded. We'll start where domination's going to go between these two, who's continuing on, and who's going to be eliminated from preseason.
We're heading to Krakoa. The Hellfire Gala is open, and the first person to be barred at the door is unsurprisingly going to be Elsa.
Which means Gambit, nope. Instant save Invisible Woman coming on through from the side of Strays. I mean, a lot of players have been very vocal about how powerful they think Invisible Woman will be, but again, that does mean now that Shikigami will take out the Gambit, probably looking at addressing the Loki a little bit down the line too, but still having to be concerned about things like the Mantis, as well as a potential triple strategist line, which Shikigami have shown as well. There's the Loki ban on the side of Strays, so do Shikigami now go for a Loki ban or a Mantis ban? Turns out it will be the Mantis, so yet again, Strays more than happy letting that Gambit through as long as they keep the Loki online to be able to get the alt copy.
Is this going to be a mirror of what happened to Ran in the last game, though? Is this a mistake? Because Shikigami, they're more than happy to get that Gambit on their own side, and as such, we see the protection onto the Rogue. They now have incredible backline blow-up potential. There goes the Star-Lord. That is something that we did not see from the last series, where we did see Gambit on the board, potential for that. There's that White Fox Protect. We knew that Demons are looking into that, especially if there is going to be some dive from someone like the Rogue. Overall, these teams, this is Fire Strays playing their own style and drafting very carefully and very particularly in what they think the pain points are of this composition, while trying to bait Shikigami into it. And Shikigami are more than happy to bite.
Oh, Strange Pan, not Loki.
Yeah.
Strays can go for the Loki if they want. They can go for a potential triple strategist line with the White Fox Ultron as well with that Invisible Woman. The Strange Pan, like, we did talk about the fact that, like, BlackSky has been playing a lot of Strange recently, and I think on Domination too, this could be, like, a really big factor in allowing Shikigami to just stop Strays from stalling out fights, or even winning overtime, being able to come on through with that really fast regroup from the Strange TP. But what I'm really interested as well is to see, like, what is that going to force BlackSky onto? It's not going to be the Groot, especially since, like, we're playing on the side of Grove at the moment. Looks like it's going to be the Vanguard Deadpool instead, with Binary playing that Captain America. Shikigami, though, they're happy. We've already seen that they'll play this Ultron Mantis composition on the likes of Central Park, a map which I'm sure Strays will have no qualms in, or well, actually all of the qualms in wanting to take Shikigami there, since the Shikigami have been able to full hold it against multiple teams. This also does mean that Leolas being able to just have that drone constantly applied to the likes of Frost Mountain has a lot of survivability to the Phoenix, who has a lot of damage to her range with the 12% boost from Name's end.
Yeah, we don't need to. We're not going to be seeing the Human Torch Ultron Mantis composition that we've seen some teams sneak in with. It's going to be the different flavouring character in the form of the Phoenix, which will be burning bright, applying those sparks to anyone who decides to group up, as Black's out already, trying to win the hit scan duel right off the bat here. But it's Isidore who you need to keep an eye on. If they can find anyone isolated with that Gambit team up, the Hearts is one, they're going to have so much blow-up potential. And whilst Nos is going to be able to keep the team a little bit topped up, it's not a lot of burst potential, so Closer and Demon will have to be on the point for there. But for now, you don't need to heal against a team that's already back at their spawn, as this is a heck of a start for Fire Strays, as they are able to grab themselves a triple.
Yeah, that late Star-Lord ban, it's hurting Shikigami. Strays have the Ultron too, but they also have Sloppo on the Star-Lord, which means putting massive amounts of pressure onto Leolas. If he gets that Galactic Legend up, despite not having the Gambit, it's still going to be enough to be able to take the Ultron out mid-ultimate of the Rage of Ultron. As Strays winning this first fight, now get the luxury of being able to choose where they want to position in anticipation of this Rogue showing up and trying to put pressure on their back line, meaning that you can just use the charm, buy yourself the time to have the peel come through from the Star-Lord. In the meantime, BlackSky's hitting Shikigami's whole team with the Ban Hammer to allow Binary to full send it, creating the space for Sloppo with the Galactic Legend.
And that's going to be another wipe here. They're just chased all around. They're far away from their spawn, so there's no way they're getting away with this. That is going to be Fire Strays with an exceptional hold far forward towards the spawn point of Shikigami, giving them very little time to react. This, and while all this is happening, Lindstrom has now lost 2 fights before they've been able to charge 1 Raging Royal Flush.
I mean, if you're Strays too, like, you can potentially force Shikigami to have to use an ult to be able to match Znost's Rage of Ultron. Likely Leolaz's, you wouldn't want to engage with the Gambit ult since Strays would just be able to, well, disengage it and then play bounce the point so that Shikigami don't get full flip potential. You can see too, Strays, like, they've changed their rotation. They're positioning not on the high ground, which Shikigami would just allow to close up the distance and come through with that very problematic one-sided Gambit ult. Instead, we're playing with the point in between us. Our backline is going to be a little bit further away, so we don't have to worry about being run down upon when eventually Lindstrom decides to go in. Closer does have the invisible boundary, but Blackstar is outside of it. Freedom Charge employed instead too, since invisible boundary is not on the objective itself and is about to end. So out comes the Captain America ultimate, allowing Strays to run back into Shikigami's side. It's about to be OT2 here, Tetcha, and Znost with the Rage of Ultron means that Strays continue having the Starlight potential until Demon's going to be able to hit the White Fox ultimate. Shikigami have to find these eliminations, or this could be round done.
With the Soul Resurgence, keeps it topped up a little bit, but that's all of their strategist ultimates now topped out. It's enough to force Fire Strays off the point, and there's no portal. It was banned out, which means Shiki will flip this, but it's an overtime flip. Look at the ultimate charges now for Fire Strays, 80% on the Galactic Legend, 26% a little bit further away for Invisible Boundary, but they will have Kumiho very shortly, whereas you look at the defensive tools available for Shikigami, nothing over 33% yet.
Yeah, Strays can fish too. Like, Sloppo is just going to be building slowly up to that Galactic Legend, and then Strays will be able to make their move using the solid ultimate, clearing the space. He still comes on for an early hit of the Heartbreaker so that Sloppo loses that charge. Name is traded, but now the Captain America should get fully focused down upon by that Rogue. I mean, if they can get Isidore here, having been able to remove the Mantis. But no, it will be Blackstar falling instead, which is huge pickup for Shikigami, given the fact that Blackstar actually was 1% off having the Ban Hammer, and now, upon being eliminated, loses all of that charge.
Reset to 0. Kaya already used theirs. They are also essentially on the same, but it's all buys time because now Shikigami is 63% of the way towards that Raging Royal Flush, and Leo is keeping up right behind them with a Rage of Ultron, meaning Shikigami are going to have so many defensive tools to try and help deal with the Fire Strays re-engage. We're at 63% versus the 99 of Fire Strays. This Galactic Legend comes on out. No defensive tools available for this, so they have to rely on their own shielding to try and hold through it. Slowpo is going to get locked down though. Isidore with the chase and the blow up doing huge work. Frost Mountain comes on down for the Endsong Inferno, a little bit defensive and trying to capitalize on that initial engage. They try to follow up, but instead it's a chase onto Blackstar, who tried to banhammer, tried to capitalize, but finds nothing. Was in fact being forced to retreat themselves. Raging Royal Flush to take out the retreating members of Fire Strays, and remember, no portal. If they get staggered here, this is going to be the first point for Shikigami.
Invisible boundaries up for Closer. We're about to go into the OT. Will the ult be on point? It won't be with the Deadpool. Binary slams down just in time, but Rage of Ultron comes on through from Leolaz. And Strays, they're going to use the Freedom Charge to just run their position forward onto the point to get into a spot to use the invisible boundary once the Captain America ult's done. No Strange, but you do have the Venom, so Blackstar will be swinging back into the mix, allowing Strays to have one of their Vanguards back into this fray, but no elimination so far from their side. The Shikigami just disengage, wait for the regroup, and push back with the Mantis ultimate. Surely this means invisible boundary comes on through from Closer, but you have to be so careful that you don't lose that Mantis early.
She gets taken down, though, blown up through the main part of this engage, which means Nos is going to be the next character up with a defensive ultimate here with that Rage of Ultron. Leo's going to be taken down. Fire Strays might be able to flip this, but the difference is Shikigami, they have Portal, whereas Fire Strays don't, so if they can keep this in their control and delay, they're going to be the ones who are able to reinforce. As Banhammer comes on out to try and take out the backline of Fire Strays and prevent the reinforcements. Frost Mountain falls, but Portal will get them back into the fight once they respawn in time, and they will have that Endsong Inferno for the capitalization. In the meantime, Leo swapped over to the rocket to make sure they have a quick revive on this re-engage, but Binary is tanking through this and holding the line. Kumiho unleashed for the extra healing. Endsong to try and take it out quickly, remove the healing, but Feast from the Abyss is wiping out Shikigami as they come on through. Rage of Royal Flush in a 5 versus 6 to try and burst through Strays, but Strays are holding. Galactic Legend Slowpo has to play evasively here. If they're taken down, that's so much damage taken away, but Shikigami are running out of sustain. Name is coming back on the Jeff just to make sure they have movement speed onto the board. Demon with the shield to keep the team topped up. It's just everyone throwing bodies at the point here. It's quick reinforcements. Frost Mountains on Spider-Man to try and reinforce, to try and make it onto the objective, because neither team giving up, Moxie.
Speaking about reinforcements, we've got the Freedom Charge, but that extra armor falls off, especially with the Cosmic Yarn Amplifier. Stray's actually able to break the beacon early. Closer's built up a second invisible boundary in the same fight, and Shikigami do not have the damage to be able to puncture through. Name on the Jeff outside of the fight the whole time. Untouchable, just completing the healing, building up the Itch Jeff slowly as Strays are slowly falling apart. Ysto's got the Heartbreaker, but Shikigami, they've still got that point control. They do not want to have to use ultimates that are not required, so they have them for this first fight. But oh my goodness, even though Strays did not have a Strange Portal, the amount of time that they held that fight was insane.
What a battle between these teams. Fire Strays are starting to scare me a bit because they held for that long without Portal. Just manual reinforcements to try and flip that. And it did go in favor of Shikigami in the end, but even they had to make some crazy swaps just to get back to the point in time. Frost Mountain continuing to show just how versatile they are, bringing in the Spider-Man, even getting that final hit to clear the last remaining member of Fire Strays off of the objective in the end. But this, already, we're looking like we might be in for another very close series, Moxie, as Shikigami take the lead, but it's looking close.
Take us to a dive comp as well. Frost Mountain goes to Daredevil, Leolas onto that Psylocke. They're going to be looking for a fast hit connection with both the Itch Jeff for sustainability and kidnap potential, as well as Isidore with the Heartbreaker to just remove any opportunity for Strays to generate ultimates up to be able to match this. Demon with this White Fox has to be able to react to the Daredevil showing up with the Spectral Surge to allow Strays the opportunity of holding their backline together and buying space for Sloppo to try to find an elimination before Shikigami can close up the distance. There's the Heartbreaker, Itch Jeff as well, capitalizing on the players. Not going to go for an eat attempt. This is actually just used to refresh, sustain the health buzz from Shikigami's dive so they can match up with the poke potential of the Phoenix.
Banhammer coming out from Black Cell. They sustained through everything Shikigami were throwing at them for the initial fight. 2 ultimates down, and now it's time for them to turn it around. Shikigami get the first control of the objective. Name is just healing, hosing away from a safe position here as Fire Strays try to fight up the stairs to force Shikigami to split. They take out Isidore. Dance of the Butterfly is going to be dropped down as Ensock Inferno comes in for the attempted blow up from Slowpo, but they eat so much damage. Demon keeps the team topped up for at least a little bit, but it's not enough to save them as Fire Stray's backline shatters. It's going to be Shikigami holding control of the point and now just trying to take out some stragglers and stagger the team.
Tetra, the greed of the fish knows no bounds. Name uses ult in the first fight, 82% to the next one. By the way, this is with 20% ult generation nerf too, which goes to show just like exactly how much this Jeff is getting done in these fights. As Closer will have invisible boundary, but like now you're going to have to worry about being grabbed outside of it.
Blackstock gets taken down, trying to follow Isidore down to the low ground. Isidore punishes them for their hubris. We have Jeff's greed and Deadpool's hubris both in the same game together. But Name already built up, like you say, to another. It's Jeff. There's no Venom team up, but there is the Deadpool team up with the Mr. Pool's interdimensional toy box for a little bit of extra healing for your team on the backline, which is why we're seeing Name play very far back as opposed to a bit closer, like you might see with a Deadpool team up to make sure they're in range of that Syndartic shenanigans.
Freedom Charge leads the way for Strays. Name tries to come in through with the Itch Jeff, but you've already lost Lindstrom, so no late cast of that Gambit ultimate. No end song too on the table for Name to just get detonated if you're able to pick up 1 or 2 and take them off of the map, but you're not able to do so. Very smart heads-up play coming on through from the Jeff. Without your other strategist, you have to complete your ultimate animation as quickly as possible so you can go back to healing the rest of your team.
Okay, done. That was just Shikigami dominant from start to finish. Fire Strays, they were able to survive the initial fight that Shikigami threw at them on the objective, but ever since that, they were never able to gain a foothold. Every time they engaged, Shikigami were able to survive, back up, pick people off one by one, and just dominate on these fights. No aggressive Jeff ultimates even needed. They were literally able to just move away, make sure they ulted to a safe location, utilizing the healing output from the It's Jeff ultimate to keep the team topped up, and then continue to hose down their opponents.
Let's see the heal stats for Namo. Okay, 15k, but I mean, that's less than we thought, but also did only swap to Jeff on that like last fight on first round, and then was on Jeff for second. So probably would have got a little bit more if was on the Jeff already, but very smart stuff coming on through from the side of Shikigami. One-sided Daredevil. For Dive, especially if you win that first fight, you perfectly understand where strays are going to be coming from, when they're going to be split as well, since you can't all just walk from main. You're going to be trying to take multiple angles to be able to try and get on top of Shikigami's backline, but the Daredevil just sees it, all relays that information to Isidore. You're able to just complete the eliminations on strays. Scattered players, they don't really get the opportunity of just getting a group through to just bulldoze onto the point.
Strays trying to play their own style, but it does not turn into a win in this stage. They put on a good fight in round 1, but round 2 was all about Shikigami. Can they bring it back in map number 2 in this best of 5? It is far from over. We'll be finding out after this break.
Watch out, they're headed our way! Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
is on. 1,000 gods!
You won't have heard it because we were just chatting amongst each other, as we've now found out that Museum of Contemplation is going to be the choice of map. Moxie, you were saying that you were interested in something. I don't know if it's even like related to what we're talking about here, but continue on with what
it
you were
actually
saying.
it was. So I was actually theorizing that if you go up against Shikigami and you lose the first round of domination, what might work out for you is that if you picked a convergence, so that if then Shikigami lose that convergence, we have to wait for the map reset on map 4 to be able to take us back to that map type. So thus you are able to game the system, so as to speak, and avoid Central Park, which is absolutely going to be where Shikigami will take us if they lose Stray's pick, which is Convoy instead, Museum of Contemplation.
The interesting thing about this one, Tetra, is like the sort of love triangle that's happening, because Shikigami, they've only played Museum of Contemplation once. They lost it, and they lost it to Na'Vi, who Fire Strays beat on this map a little bit before. So it's almost like, can Shikigami then beat Fire Strays, meaning that there's this weird like rock, paper, scissors thing going on, or whether Fire Strays can actually set the latest Convoy map added into the game as a bit of a home ground.
It's a good question. I've heard enough. It is time to nerf Peps. But in this case,
Yeah.
like you say, it's a situation where we haven't seen a lot of this map from Shikigami. They seem to prefer stuff like Midtown, for example, when it comes to their convoy maps. This is a map, though, that Fire Strays do seem to very enjoy, because it's a map where White Fox, at least on that first defensive point, can have a lot of fun. There's a great long range here where you can just retreat around that first corner and get a lot of healing output and a lot of protection. If anyone tries to dive you, you punish them. So we have been seeing this a little bit appear for teams that like to play that more defensive style.
I really liked how what we saw in Krakoa was the teams that had been almost exclusively getting the Elsa for free have to adjust ever so slightly, even on different roles, right? You've got Frost Mountain that played Jean Grey, only played about 10 minutes or so from all of the games so far, because they're used to kind of letting Laylas be the one that's doing the hit scan damage. But then you've also got like Black Sao kind of forced onto Deadpool Vanguard, right? Because the Stranger's banned out. He likes to use it in combination with the Invisible Woman, which was a high priority. But also he would play Groot. The problem is that there was a protection on the other side of the Gambit, so you have a pretty nasty cleanse from Shikigami. It meant that Black Sao was a little bit uncomfortable. Still played well on the Deadpool Vanguard, Moxie, but it did sort of feel a little bit like Shikigami are just trying to push Fire Strays away from a comp that they've almost exclusively been on.
Yeah, I mean, that also puts more context for why we're getting Museum of Contemplation, because this is a very good group map. And we already got to see Strays. Yes, like even Strays being able to pull a map of Museum of Contemplation versus Na'Vi, which was then playing really, really well with things like the Groot. Might even get to see the return of the Winter Soldier for the combination of crack and impact off of that one. And also looking for those wall isolations. Even if you get Invisible Woman, you don't necessarily want to run it with the Doctor Strange. It's very good with the team up, but we cannot say enough about the potential of a good force physics engagement pull into a Groot wall isolation. If you're a strategist main, you have a Vanguard buddy, I absolutely recommend going into your ranked games and trying to coordinate those, because not a lot of people in just base competitive know how to deal with it.
I mean, Tetra, Fire Strays, a lot of eyes on them. They chose this map. Shikigami like to play dive. They can play triple strategist. We'll see how they want the draft to go.
Only one way to find out. Thank you, Ryan. We'll be back with you shortly. But for now, we're going back to our usual business, starting off with Elsa Bad. But here's where we already diverted last time, and it looks like Fire Strays, they're not deterred. They stick with their guns, and we respect that around here.
Yep, and that means that Shikigami will continue getting the second ban onto the Gambit, into potentially the one-sided Gambit. Yep, there we go. Strays, though, like, again, it's Convoy, so you can play, like, very much stacked up with your Vanguards in front of your Invisible Woman, making sure that you can get as much healing off as possible, because Closer did build up 2 invisible boundaries in 1 overtime fight. So you can see exactly how much healing that this Susan Storm is actually outputting. As well, Loki won't be outputting anything. He's going to be banned out for both sides.
Going to be seeing that Invisible Woman, like you say, one-sided, Loki removed, so no double rated Royal Flushes. At the opportunity on a map like this, it can get so much value. Rogue still going to be protected. It worked out beautifully well for Shikigami and for basically everyone who's had the chance to get that Hearts as one team up. So far, this is looking pretty familiar. This is looking almost
Yeah.
identical to the bans last time. Mantis is going to be hovered from Fire Strays to prevent the Gambit Mantis team up for just massive capitalization for damage boost. We did see Shikigami actually get their hands on it last time, so finally a small adjustment to removing that damage boost from the side of Shiki.
Yeah, last time it was the Star-Lord ban actually
Yes.
coming on through. So it does mean that Shikigami will be able to get both the Rogue and the Star-Lord, and yet again, they're going to ban out the Doctor Strange, which, again, like, even if Blackside wants to play the Groot, taking out the Strange is still a very good move, especially on Convoy, where we see so many teams, like, especially when they're defending first, the whole strategy is basically take a fight. If you start losing it, it's okay. Everyone just make sure that you get eliminated on the objective. One person who goes down early, swaps the Strange, does not have to be your Vanguard player. You portal back in, you take a second fight, you take more time and more ultimates away from the attacks, that when they get to the last fight on first, they might actually lose it in the long term. So do appreciate the fact that we're still taking the Strange out, despite Blackside probably wanting to play more of the Groot than the Sorcerer Supreme for most of this map.
It's all about the moments when it is important. Demons right now battling away with Blackside to see who gets the jump pad, just so they can get some isolation. It will, of course, be Demon who is meant to get on their hands on that, so they can try and isolate someone. Looking at this, currently, we are sitting at a solo Vanguard composition for Fire Strays, but they are on attack. You see, of course, how much of this actually makes it out of the spawn door. Shikigami, Name's on that Jeff, is going to be hanging very far back once again, so there's no Venom team up. It is once again the Mr. Pool's interdimensional toy box.
Yeah, Slopper going to be playing the Phoenix as well, going to be receiving all of the damage boosts coming on through from that Mantis. Frostmite one-sided Daredevil could be problematic for Strays to have to deal with. You'll perfectly understand where this Wolverine will be playing from, as well as the angle that the Phoenix will be looking for without having to physically be present to clear it. As we can see, Easto just holding very close up on Strays' own side of high ground, scouts out that it's a Groot, decides not to be too split from the team, so will not be wall isolated and punished.
Binary on the Vanguard Deadpool, making sure we do actually get a double Vanguard out of Fire Strays, but now just trying to charge up that ultimate, but it's a little bit behind Kaya. Kaya at 88%, but that's going to be a big boost here as Binary's able to take down Frost Mountain, who's been hovering around the periphery. Demon's able to isolate Isidore, and Fire Strays able to just massively capitalize on their momentum. Kaya does drop the Bad Hammer, realizing that they're kind of the only person still up here, and might need to drop it in case they go down, but they've not even taken down. They're now just stuck in their opponent's spawn, essentially.
Yeah, and Strays have been doing a really good job of just rewriting the heal coming on through from Shikigami with these one-sided Groot walls, with the Unicorn Bubble shield as well coming on through from the side of Binary. So Layla's, you've got the Galactic Legend, but Closer has the invisible boundary to be able to react to it, and Lindstrom does not have that Raging Royal Flush to have pick potential despite having that strategist ult up. Strangling Prison comes on through from Black Side. Name dodges it with the use of its Jeff. Galactic Legend, but as we just talked about, it's on its own. Invisible boundary is enough to be able to survive through, and Binary just sends the Ban Hammer out onto Peter Quill to force Star-Lord back to spawn.
That's going to be a lot of XP gained from Binary there, as this attack is working exceptionally well for them. Shikigami Name will eventually fall after sending Blacks out to their doom with that It's Jeff. Will be forced to back up, and it looks like we're abandoning the Deadpool. We're sticking with the Jeff, but it's now symbiotic shenanigans. We're going more heavy on the dive for Shikigami. It's time to try and just get onto Fire Strays and punish them for their aggression.
Well, for Shikigami, it's also about taking as many fights as you possibly can, right? Now you can actually go for a fast hit from Kaya, with Layla swapping off of the Star-Lord onto the Phoenix instead, so playing from range and trying to take advantage of the space that his Vanguard creates for him. Strays, though, they can decide to take this aggressively. They've got the Soul Resurgence to be able to react to first turn Gambit ultimate coming on through from the side of Shikigami, and they've been able to pick up Frost Mountain. Shikigami, without the Galactic Legend, this Gambit ultimate, it's solvable through just the sustainability of the Invisible Woman and Mantis. Because, by the way, Strays, despite having Mantis in play, no triple strat line.
They're doing the best they can just with the damage boost, and it's working out. We don't need to any extra healing if there's no damage coming our way, because everyone's already KO'd. And as such, Shikigami running out of time. This is once again the burst coming in already towards that second point, but this is one of the hardest points to push on the map. Anti-heal coming in from all sides to try and finish up Fire Strays, but Isidore is taken down so quickly thanks to the last stand. Demon tanks on through with that healing factor, keeping them topped up in this fight for enough time for Znos to keep them healed. Straggling Prison from Blacksow to try and trap them away from the objective to allow that bus to keep on pushing. Ensong Inferno to chase down Lindstrom, and Shikigami, they are running out of tools to try and delay this. They are being forced off the point. Blacksow getting one more time. We see the reinforcement from Isidore though. This spawn point is so close to the actual objective. It's Jeff coming on in, having to split their own team out right away to make sure that they're still contesting onto that objective. And this group wall is really splitting the team in two. Venom buying so much time. Kai is doing huge work for their team, but the split from Blacksow is putting so much pressure on him. Takes down Name. Portal coming in for Frost Mountain. They're delaying this as long as they can, and this is what Shikigami do best. Burn through those timers, but it is simply burning through the timer as whilst Nost goes down, the boundary is keeping Fire Strays up, and Shikigami, they are seriously running out of tools for this delay.
Soul Resurgence as well, potentially on the cards for Znost here as Name tries to heal the team from far. Might get picked off by Sloppo in the meantime, though. Oh, what a flick. Coming on for... We talked about it in the setup for the series, right? Sloppo's really come back into his own. He's been putting up such performances on this Phoenix and the Elsa previously. And Shikigami, not even with the one-sided Gambit ult, able to just find the damage through the invisible boundary. Strays beat out both the one-sided Gambit ult and the closer respawns from the side of the defense. And they've got a whole lot of ultimates to be able to snowball this next fight. You've got Strangling Prison. You can start your engagement with Soul Resurgence to run at Shikigami as well, as Leolas is getting pretty low, does not have the Ensong Inferno just yet to get the health reset. They want to try and take a fight just to be able to put pressure onto Strays and try and take some of this time off of their bank. There's the Feast of the Abyss, but the Ensong Inferno in reaction just curtails all of the momentum that Kai was trying to set up.
And they take out Gambit. Most importantly, that means there's more time where they're not building ult charge. Frost Mountain's already at 71% towards Galactic Legend after swapping to that Star-Lord. They're taken down as well, but Lindstrom's only at 52% on a Raging Royal Flush, falling a little bit further behind. And that is already with Doctor Strange moving quickly towards that third and final capture point. This is Shikigami running out of time to make something happen here. And Fire Strays with, like you say, this simple double strategist lineup of the Invisible Woman and that Mantis, that damage boost just working out enough that they don't need to heal because there's no one to do damage to them.
Banhammer comes on out from Binary, allowing the Deadpool to just get into the backline, split the team. Name comes on through of the HGF. Demon waits for the moment, comes on through of the last stand, gets the pin onto the Venom outside of the GF healing, and Song Inferno comes on through from Leolas, though, trades up onto closer. So now Stray's only left with Mantis and self-sustainability from team-ups as well. Going to be fully zoned off of that objective by the Galactic Legend, but they just built themselves a house. Blackstar's got the Groot Walls, no one else can get through.
They have the Wildwood Wall as well with the Mantis team up, so they're being healed while they're in here. Even though the strategists weren't able to join them, they come out of here healthier than when they went in, finally able to regroup to allow Znos to rejoin the battle. There's an attempt at a wraparound coming in from Frost Mountain, but he's a little bit alone, forced to retreat up to the high ground so he can be with his team. Kai is getting bullied by Demon. Doctor Strange is moving. They have to jump on board to try and contest it, and Isidore is the one who has to try and make it. Dive back onto the point. They finally take out Binary to buy a little bit more time to keep them in this fight, but Sloppo is still dueling, doing huge damage into the backline. Beautiful pickup onto Kaya to remove yet one more defensive tool. Soul Resurgence from Znost. Blacksow with the Straggling Prism won't find a lot, but it's still allowing them to push on in. Shikigami with the Raging Royal Flush, allowing them for as much damage as they can to clean out the members of Fire Strays, but the boundary says absolutely not, and Fire Strays are holding once again, and Shikigami, they're back to throwing bodies at the point one by one.
Oh my goodness, throwing Groot Walls at the point as well, just stopping Name from having the heal positions from Shikigami's own spawn. Leolas trying to commit damage on top of that Feast of the Abyss, gets through Blackstar's health bar, has the Ensong too to be able to just take a couple of hits, keep the objective pressured and contested, take the damage, get the health reset off the ultimate, and allow Shikigami the opportunity to regroup. But Binary's just been let loose. Demon with the last stand. Name again dodges it with the Actually, it's Jeff, but you have to be so careful. How many are off the map? But more importantly, how many are off the objective? Because that was the OT push, and Strays are taken off of the card, which means that Shikigami complete the hold.
Name a better combo than Shikigami and the last second fights. Just throwing bodies at the point when there's almost no distance on the board. I'll wait. Because Shikigami hold for one more time. But Fire Strays, an incredible push. Putting on an absolute show with the Mantis Invisible Woman doing huge work for them. And now they're on the defense. They can go a little bit beefier. Hovering onto that White Fox again to try and just burn through some of that clock that Shikigami are going to have to try and outrace. Shikigami, really nice crisis management once again, but it's the middle parts of the map, those middle fights where Fire Strays are still claiming points, and they got a huge distance. 2 points, 142 meters, 55 centimeters.
I think we need a heal check on Blacks at the moment. Like, how much has this group healed? Because the fact that, like, Strays did that with just Mantis Invisible Woman, don't take this into your own competitive games. I implore you. It only works here on Strays composition because everyone else has sustainability. Phoenix gets the health reset off of Ensong. Groot gets the ability to, as you said, have those new walls with the Mantis team up healing the rest of the team. But also with the Phoenix in play and the Wolverine, you've got the health sustain coming on out with the lifesteal, basically on the Wolverine, where portions of that damage is actually converted to self-healing coming on through. Now that you're off of the Wolverine and on the defense, we're going to see much more focus on sustainability. You know you're going to be taking a whole lot of incoming damage. That also Frost Mountain will be starting off on the Daredevil with Kaya to back him up on that Venom. So Demon is going to be on the White Fox instead.
Going to be pushing on out, building as much charge as they can. Ankh into the background, and then try to deal with anyone who isn't able to retreat around that first corner. Binary taken down quickly. Kaya going to make their way up a little bit higher and also wait for a bit of healing at Frost Mountain. Well, we talked about how sometimes White Fox can be one of the few characters that can take on a Daredevil in a backline dive, but not this time. Frost Mountain able to get the advantage and is already zoning out so many members of Fire Strays as their defense is already broken, but they have time. They can still make their way back in for another defense here, but with the Hand of Conju, that's certainly going to zone them away for a bit longer.
Well, we talked about Eastlaw going toe-to-toe with Ducky earlier in playoffs. Now he's going toe-to-toe with Blacks, and these walls have been brutal for Strays to have to deal with. So too the Terror Cape coming out from Name. That vulnerability where you're taking increased damage from all sources, yeah, that includes Moon Knight, which means that Legolas has just been putting Strays through an absolute blender. Triple Strategist feels like you only have one strategist with the amount of time that you have to be able to react to that much incoming damage in such a small amount of time, as Nami has Eternal Bond. Lindstrom close to getting that Raging Roll Flush up as well. Close is going to have to use this Invisible Boundary just to hold Strays' position so they don't give up more space, but that means that Eastlaw could potentially just pull you out of it with the Groot ult.
Groot's going to be coming on in from Isidore, perfectly timed there. You summoned it into existence as Leo takes advantage of everyone being grouped up, makes it a double, setting up for a triple with the help of Isidore. Blacksound drops their own straggling prison to look for a turnaround, but they get deleted. The boundary simply delays the push here, but Fire Strays, they've already had to back up, so they're not going to be delaying it any longer. And caught in the choke point on their retreat, Shikigami, they are not slowing down.
Yeah, Kaya just catches them with the Feast of the Abyss, which applies the anti-heal, and then Leo has a couple of Anks thrown in, Primary Fire on top. Good block on the Terror Cape coming on out from that Groot wall, but Frost Mountain still able to come on through with the Let the Devil Out. Blackstar is taken down. Sloppo has to rely on the Ensong Inferno, just holding it as long as possible for the health reset. Does take out the Daredevil, but doesn't get anyone else on the side of Shikigami, and crucially as well, no one from Strays able to keep the point contested. So Shikigami roll into third with over 5 minutes on the time bank.
5 minutes to push 142 meters, and Fire Strays are scrambling. The White Fox has been abandoned. Demon is over to the Ultron, going to try and get some range advantage here, but you got to be careful because you are against Leo, who's on that hit scan of the Jean Grey. could be trying to ping them from a distance here if they're not careful. Black's out 54% of their way towards a strangling prison, but Isidore already has theirs, already dropping theirs. Here's the dive from Kaya to try and take down the defending members of Fire Sprays early. Sloppo's already cleaned out. The backline's getting chased down. Caught in a small alley with the Venom, who takes advantage and takes them down, making it a double, triple, quadruple, quintuple, and sextuple. Fire Strays off the board, and SHIKI continue a casual ride for Dr. Strange towards that third point.
Ultron experiment tabled. Demon comes back on the Winter Soldier. We've still got grinding on Trooper's Fist. We've still got Bionic Hook as well, which can connect onto multiple bodies. And potentially as well, you're going to be able to build Kraken Impact up with the amount of players stacked up into those E's, the tainted voltages. The question is, can you keep your Groot up long enough to have the setup for the ult? Black's out is down. Nami just goes first. Eternal Bond for Shikigami sets up the sustainability. They have all of the confidence to just commit to the fight before Strays can build a win condition to stop it, and that looks like it's going to be Museum of Contemplation closed for business. Shikigami complete the push 3-2 with almost 4 minutes spare.
Well, we talked about it potentially being a triangle between Navi, Shikigami, and Fire, and it turns out that triangle is more of a line. As in this case, Shikigami were able to just smash on through with barely any hesitation. Fire did a really solid push on their own side, but Shiki's crisis management won out, meaning that they are able to push the full way. 15 final hits for Leo, going 28 and 5 overall. That Phoenix working out beautifully for them in the long term.
30 assists coming out on the side of Nami. Like those terror capes. Yeah, like both Nami and Lindstrom really like helping out in terms of those eliminations, but the terror cape setups. Like Strays, they had that sustainability, they had the triple strategist, they were anticipating Shikigami coming on through with that dive, but that strategist line against the amount of incoming burst damage from the Moon Knight, off of the vulnerability from the Terror Cape applications. If one person gets caught out, Eastor's there with the Groot Walls. Frost Mountain's always telling you when and where to set up those Groot Walls to be able to catch players or just zone out the backline so no heals can come through. Really good coordination coming on out from Shikigami.
We're really starting to get into the weeds of these arguments as to who is the best tree, who is the best Groot at EMEA, because Isidore is continuing to make a great case for themselves. 2-0 for Shikigami, looking to potentially eliminate Fire Strays. Can they continue? We'll find out after this.
Watch out, they're headed our way! Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
Fire Strays having tournament life on the line means that it's going to be Clintar that could potentially finish their campaign if we do see Shikigami come out on top. The interesting thing about this one, Tetra, is that neither team have played it so far this preseason. It is a complete Hail Mary. Fire Strays maybe keeping their best to last.
If you're talking about maps that can kind of upturn the way the game is played, we look at Clintar, as Moxie was talking about last time we had this come up for us. It's a little bit of a defensive coded map, so you can play a little bit differently in terms of what the priority on the draft is, and maybe try and force your opponents off of the compositions they may be more comfortable on. And the other one is Shin Shibuya, which we were talking about it in the break, and I'm giving Moxie full credit for this. You don't go Shin Shibuya if you're having strange band against you. That is exactly what Moxie said, and it is completely fair, so you're kind of down to one option there.
I think also, like, for Fire Strays, it seemed that they had set up themselves a good map for this. Like, Black Star's group was looking solid, the draft was good because they could get the Mantis and the Invisible Woman on their side. It was just that Shikigami just absolutely blew a hole through them on their attacking side, which is kind of like pretty much how Shikigami play. Their attacking sides are usually pretty strong at getting to the ends of maps. I mean, what do you want to see from, like, Fire, I suppose? Because draft-wise, it's like they're getting what they want. It's just not making that much difference.
Yeah, I mean, they're sort of being forced as well to have to put Black Star onto different vanguards because, as we said, Shikigami are banning out that Strange, which also then bleeds into...
Is a good question. Because that's another thing that some teams have done in, like, Asia, is, like, protect the Strange second.
Yeah, but then you're giving up something else is the problem. If you lose the Strange, like, you're also sort of impacting what Closer can do, though, on the Invisible Woman as well, in terms of just, like, being able to help give that Vanguard the extra level of damage, and also, as we talked about, the TP plays coming on through. But I think that's why they're taking us to Symbiotic Surface, because, one, you wouldn't go Shin Shibuya, as already established, but two, you also wouldn't use a Strange portal even if Strange was in play if you're trying to defend first point of Symbiotic Surface. It would still be employed second and third, but for a lot of the time, the defensive team would just want to have a more forward position controlling the high ground for the first fight of second, as opposed to throwing a Strange teleport into the mix, potentially losing that fight, and losing then the first fight of second off of the back of it.
There is an argument, a possibility to be made around portaling on attack, though, where some teams will try to wrap around if their opponents have gone for any particular heavy bunker style. So it is still something we need to keep an eye on.
I agree. Like, Shiki easily on their attacking round could start off with, like, this is a callback. We saw it yesterday, actually. When teams would open up their attack with Strange TP, you'd have a Storm, you'd have a Moon Knight. You would literally, like, use the TP to scout the Loki's position. You'd open the portal, you'd have Terra Cape come through from your cloak, and then boom, that Loki just disappears.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, like, a good map for the likes of Daredevil, which Frostman want to play. And Demon has got good memories of his time on Insomnia when he played a lot of the Wolverine, because the Fastball Special sent him and Insomnia to some really gripping maps. It's going to all have to come out here, though. I feel like the Wolverine was like a good showing on the side. It's not seen a head-to-head of Demon versus Frost Mountain yet, but it does feel like for both sides they are having to eke off of their, like, comfort picks ever so slightly. It's just that Shikigami, Kaya said it in week one, they're very flexible. I just don't think Fire Strays is as flexible as Shikigami.
I think you might be right, but this is their time to show it. They've at least got their own style, which means they don't really have to be as flexible if they can, get their own style to work. And currently that's been the issue with Shikigami having the tools needed to shut it down, especially in the drafting phase, where Shikigami feel like they're kind of just getting every single thing they could possibly want.
And both teams are getting ready now, so we should be jumping into game fairly shortly. Just as sort of a reminder, like, both these, like, teams have been taking out the Elsa first. We've seen, like, the bans of the Loki traded either side, so it was only, like, that first map that we saw the one-sided Loki on the side of Fire Strays. But looking at the one-sided characters that Fire Strays were able to get: Loki, Star-Lord, Invisible Woman Mantis, it's not as costly as the fact that Shikigami are getting Gambit for free. Fire Strays, I checked, never played Gambit so far in the preseason, which is ridiculous, right, Moxie, to not play that character?
Yeah, it also explains, like, why when we go to this first save, they go for the Invisible Woman instead of going for that Gambit save. But I think, like, Shikigami, you still have to be very cautious of just, like, letting the Gambit slip through in case the Strays are just baiting, because we have seen Snoss plays the Gambit, It's just when he's copied it from the God of Mischief with that Loki ultimate.
See if there's more mischief to be had. Fire Strays have to fight this one back. Draft? Probably Elsa bans, right?
Probably Elsa gonna be highly prioritized from both these teams, as it seems to have finally emerged as the #1 pick. The Monster Hunter has become the hunted and will be taken out on both sides. And this is familiar. Gambit still being allowed through from the side of Fire Strays, as they will protect the Invisible Woman, and Shikigami will immediately remove the Raging Cajun from their comp.
One-sided Gambit save coming on through from Shikigami in 3, 2, 1, 0.5, 0.4, 0.3. Hey! There we go. Okay, Loki ban now has to come on out, surely, on the side of Strays. Yeah, much faster in terms of locking that one. Just like, okay, we know what's going to happen. They'll go for the Gambit save. You'll go for the Loki ban. Shikigami will have to respond with a mirror Loki ban. Strays now might go for a Mantis ban here. Could potentially go for an Invisible Woman, so that yet again they get this one-sided synergy coming on through with their Strategist and Sorcerer Supreme. But Shikigami, we know they've already been splitting that one off as the Rogue save comes on through. And Strays now have to weigh up, is it a Mantis ban? Is it a Star-Lord ban? What's it to be? Venom ban instead, it appears.
That is interesting. So we've been seeing a couple teams go for that double dive setup, and when you're trying to... Okay, there we go, an adjustment finally. I'll come back to my first point in a moment, but we were just talking about it. The Strange has been a tool that is just important. Being able to re-engage if you lose a fight quickly is something that Shikigami have mastered, and Fire Strays haven't even been given the chance to do. But the Venom being taken out here does, for starters, prevent Shikigami from going at least for a double dive composition, or at least slows it down. There are still other options to fill in that role, but it also can very heavily affect the Jeff, which we saw Name have a very lovely time of on map #1. That Symbiote Shenanigans can do huge amounts of work, so you're kind of forcing it into a Deadpool style, which is less dive heavy but can still be played dive, and more of just working your opponents down from a distance.
Yeah, Strays though, they have to be prepared. One-sided Daredevil is on the cards for Shikigami. Frost Mountain will be happy about that, though for now he'll be starting off on the Star-Lord to be able to pair with Lindstrom's Gambit. Talked about maybe seeing something slightly different coming on through from Strays. We could be getting binary on the Hulk if they're feeling like Shikigami are going to be leaning towards that dive, and they want to make sure that like having both the Hulk to be able to peel it will also put pressure onto Shikigami's own side. Could be a very strong look, as Hulk's been seeing more and more value in the professional play, to the point that I think a lot of these Vanguards are going to have to start learning him.
Still has great value, just fix that shield protecting your backline, the ability to pressure your opponent's backline as well. It can get so much value. And of course, it gives Wolverine uppies. Wolverine craves the sky for some reason. But they're going to go for a portal engage first. Finally, Black Sun's been allowed on the Strange, and they've chosen Violence. Indestructible, Unbreakable Guard for the setup to push on in and try and get as much advantage as possible. But Binary is destroyed. Finally engaging Isidore, who spots them coming on through, breaks the shield, and smacks the Hulk back to spawn.
Oh, Hearts is one. Not a fun team up for Vanguards on the other side to have to deal with. Binary is, however, able to actually remain in the fight on the field in puny banner form, gets enough damage too to get the ult back to come in on Hulk form. But Kaya, speaking about damage, has already got the first ban hammer to match with Znos, who's playing the strategist Deadpool instead. Out comes one ult into Kaya's ban hammer, but Strays have already been able to make space into Shikigami's back line, taking out Lindstrom, meaning that Name alone is left to try to fend off the approach from Strays long enough for Frost Mountain on that Strange to try to TP the team back in.
Find the right angle. Kaya's going to get focused down, forcing them off the point. That percentage starts to tick up, and Portal will not be in time. Abandoned. As Shikigami, not only do they not get Portal, they are able to swap to Star-Lord in time. Leo is swapping to the Portal, which means they did not use it on Frost Mountain. That's some patience from Shiki. They instead choose to retreat to the further back spawn point, and Portal in for a classic Shikigami. Portal re-engage on the ramp to look for a quick block and hold the point as close to its original position as possible.
Yeah, but Strays, they're ready for it. They're actually able to absorb the incoming damage despite Nami coming on through with that Terror Cape. Kai as well looking for the isolation with the Unicorn Shield. Leolas falls. Slowpoke getting really close to that Galactic Legend. No Gambit on the side of Strays, though, to be able to empower it, but you're just wanting to try and force out the Eternal Bond from a fight that Shikigami have already lost, getting high ground possession, clearing Shikigami off that point, and they just used the Strange TP too, so they're not going to be able to go past Strays' close hold, which is why we're seeing all of the players just push up into those spaces and try to read where exactly that rotation is going to come from.
Fire Spray is getting some good distance out here, but Shiki will be able to break through using the far door to make sure that they can make their way back onto the point. They're even looking for a little bit of a flank here. Frost Mountain, seeing if they can find anyone out of position, with Lindstrom being at the ready with the Raging Roar of Flush to capitalize on an initial engage. Fire Spray, so they have the boundary, they have the defensive tools, they have the Kumiho even to make sure that they can hold this, but with Leo building up to an Ensong Inferno, that Kumiho could get popped extremely quickly, but not if they're not on the board, as Leo is taken out early. Eternal Bond's going to be the first tool to be utilized, forcing out the invisible boundary. That's great news for Lindstrom, but they need to survive through this and try to hold this second point before it gets any value.
Problem for them, though, is that that's invisible boundary gone. You don't have it to be able to deal with Galactic Legend, Raging Royal Flush combination coming on through from Shikigami. Yes, Nost has that Kumiho unleashed, but the healing is just not enough to be able to keep the team standing, since Star-Lord, he's up in the air. Fox can't slam down to be able to have the damage to get the self-heal through, and Nost's form just melts. But the Strange Teleport is going to be coming on through on the side of Strays, as they were able to save the Doctor Strange, and they go for the map flip instead, giving up the high ground to get the objective behind them and for Shikigami to have to drop.
Banhammer going to be coming out, Ensong Inferno for the follow-up to try and see if they can give a quick blow-up, and they do. Close off, finished off, Demon dropped low. Kaya finishes off Sloppo thanks to that Banhammer. It lasted just long enough to get the finishing blow, and Fire Strays are cleaned out a second time in a row. And Leo, using that Ensong Inferno, is basically all it costs Shikigami. Kaya on that Banhammer will be charged up in no time.
Strays, they've got a good engagement tool here off of the back of Galactic Legend, so it's not as problematic as if you weren't working with it, having to go into Eastall with that Heartbreaker. Strays can take first turn as opposed to having to walk into Shikigami using the Rogel early and taking all of that ult charges. You got a little bit of poke pressure. Strays not wanting to take the high ground, not wanting to come into the close contact with the Rogue when they know the ultimate is up. Also, not going to want to take too long, though, Tetra, because if they do, they risk allowing Shikigami to set up ultimates. Demon comes on through with a huge last stand, but Eastos hit the back line and find the connection onto the Star-Lord, so only now is Loppo able to come on through with that Galactic Legend. Name able to get out of the damage. Kiting swaps over to that cloak form, utilizes the iframe, and manages to get to the side of Staircase, but Sloppo, even out of the ult, comes on through with the drop down. The rest of the team piling on through the corridor, able to complete the eliminations and take Shikigami's players down. There's still an opportunity for the contest, though, because they didn't get Name, and Eternal Bond might be enough sustainability to keep Shikigami's players getting another regroup.
Nami gets Frost Mountain onto the point to delay to buy time as Leo's going to portal back in, and Lindstrom has built up enough charge for a Raging Royal Flush with a minute 10 on the board. They're going to try and hold onto it in case they need to do one more fight, as they were able to finish off Fire Strays on this one more push. And Fire Strays, they burn basically everything for that. Kumaho even used to try and hold, but they are cleaned off the board anyway. All they have now is Aya Wakamoto, soon to be the invisible boundary for Closar, and that last stand for Demon. And this really might be a last stand for Fire Strays for Shikigami. They still have Raging Royal Flush, they still have Banhammer, they still have Galactic Legend. They have all the tools they need to wipe out Fire Strays before they even touch them.
Yeah. I mean, you've got Terror Cape, though, coming on through from Snost. Last-ditch effort to try to get the blind onto the Star-Lord to stop Galactic Legend's lock-ons, even with that Gambit ultimate. But you're down your Invis, you're down your CT. Strays, I think they know this fight is going to be done. They have to just try to get regrouped back in their spawn, but unfortunately they're still losing players late. Demon falls, and if you're Shikigami, you're still holding on to these ultimates. Blackside might be able to get a portal through. Shikigami not going towards Strays' side of spawn. They're waiting for the portal to come on through. Oh my goodness, what an avoid coming out from Lindstrom to get out of the way of Aya Agamotto. Comes out with the Purify cast on the Raging Roll Flush. Invisible boundaries there from closer, but Shikigami will just wait for it to drop to come through with a Galactic Legend. Banhammer onto the Star-Lord. Feral grab from Demon. Manages to find the elimination, and against all odds, Strays are starting to come out on top of the fight.
They're holding it. They burn through Kaya. Isidor's still on the point. Leo is still on the point, but Leo's going to be just node through here by Slowpo. Lindstrom trying to keep them topped up. Isidor falls, and the bodies have been taken down. No one has a hit point pool to hold back Fire Strays, as with a portal that had 5 seconds to go at the 15-second mark, Black Sow times it perfectly, holds the overtime. They move back in, and Closar's invisible boundary gives them the sustain they need to survive one last Shikigami push, and Shikigami is sent back to spawn. Fire Strays are still going.
Not a lot of time, though. It did cost them a whole lot of time. 1 minute left. This Star-Lord 1v1 could be such a big factor in the next fight, because Frost Mountain doesn't take Slowpo down. The flank around the Galactic Legend forces Nami to have to use the Eternal Bond, invading into the space from Strays, but that means that Znost gets the second cast of it. Kai is going to wait with the Banhammer. The moment that the CD does not have the Strategist ult up, they'll be vulnerable, but Shikigami have lost a lot of space. Strays looking for the isolations, manages to find the elimination from Demon's poke onto Isidore. Shikigami know they have to throw players onto this card to buy that regroup opportunity, but Demon has the end song. If Closer gets the invisible boundary up here, Tetcha, this could be a full push.
15 seconds, but only a few meters to go. Aya Agamotto over the wall by Leo, by Name, and Fire Strays are pushing in. The last-ditch defense of Shikigami is being taken down. They throw an Iron Fist at it just because it's fast out of spawn, but it simply lambs to the slaughter as Fire Strays are cleaning up the last-ditch effort. Shiki out of spawn, though, are still throwing bodies. They're so close to the respawn that they can just keep pushing in. They throw everyone at it, but they can't touch enough. Fire Strays get a triple cap.
It's the boundary. The moment that Closer builds that boundary, it's like, okay, cool. Shikigami have Closer respawns, but they don't have enough damage to be able to find the eliminations onto Strays' side. I mean, we have to check the passive buffs coming on through for some of these Strays players, because I swear they get a passive just like plot armor when they go to Symbiotic Surface. Demon's clutch potential on this map alone has now spanned 2 years separately of Marvel Rivals Esports.
He's made some kind of deal with Null or Eddie, and it's impossible to know which, but some deal has been made, because yet another pop-off. Who could possibly doubt Demon at this stage? Shikigami, they are forced into a situation where if they want to 3-0 this, they need a triple cap and then to win in that overtime. Good news for them. Fire Strays completed that map with no time in the bank at all, meaning that if Shiki can just be faster, then that's good news for them. They're going to have an easier time on the extra rounds. But otherwise, we might be heading to a map number 4, Moxie.
Yeah, I mean, saying full cap on Symbiotic Surface is a lot easier said than done, simply because we can say that in the space of a good 10 seconds. Actually capping this map a lot of the time is, well, an arduous journey that ends in overtime or misery. As we're going to be seeing Strays like Znost already, like this is what you do at the start of the round. You stay in cloak form in case Shikigami make a strange portal play on your backline.
Now they know that they're not. They're heading up main. They swap back to the dagger, keep the team topped up, and they've even broken that side wall so that they have a good angle in case Shikigami go for a fast push. They get the high ground advantage. They have a way to wrap around into the main access point at the very back in case they need to. And this is a lovely position that has been set up by Fire Strays. But while all this is happening, we can look at those Deadpools. Kaya once again outpacing Binary at building up that charge of that Banhammer up to 86%, and we're only a few seconds into the round.
I mean, the moment you get it online, that's the green light for Shikigami to complete this dive. from multiple angles too. Sloppo does mark Frost Mountain, so Sard's not going to be able to come on through from that flank. Instead, it will be Star-Lord and Phoenix and Kaya jumping into the mix. Sets up the Banhammer, slams down the Unicorn Shield for the isolation, blocking out Q line of sight. And this should be first fight one for the side of Shikigami. The patient play of just waiting for the Deadpool ult to open things up, not overextending. We always talk about the discipline that this team has on dive, but you can see it in every comp that they play.
We look at Fire Strays, they don't go for Portal, they go for high ground. This is what you were talking about yesterday. It's if you can't Portal in quick enough, then that high ground position can give you so much value. Not every team is like Shikigami, where they will just go for an immediate Portal re-engage. Fire Strays taking that high ground, already sieging down the Frost Mountain, building up a lovely chunk of ult charge off of Blacksout up on that high ground. As he veers to commit, Team is able to find a nice isolation onto Lindstrom, meaning that we're not getting any more charge up towards that Raging Royal Flush. Name falls as well, all the healing removed from Shikigami, and this push is coming to a grinding halt.
Yep, that high ground position, it's literally a bird's perch for a Phoenix player that Demon is able to take great advantage of. But if you're Strays, that was like the easier fight to win. This next one, much more problematic. Galactic Legend, Lindstrom Raging Royal Flush. Strays do have both strategist ultimates, but even with one of them, it can still find the elimination through with that elevated level of damage. There's the Gambit ult. Frost Mountain's actually holding the Galactic Legend because they're going to force Strays into burning strategist ults to mirror. Frost Mountain, meanwhile, holds his, uses it next, surely, to force out the invisible boundary coming on through from the side of Closer, which means that Shikigami can just trade out strategist ults and come through into the next fight with more of them.
Kaya will be rejoining the team after getting taken down by the Enso Infernos. Once they're grouped up as 6, what Moxie's prediction was is likely coming to pass. Lindstrom creeping forward, Name with the setup for the main push here. They try to pressure in. They don't burn ultimates yet. They're trying to force Fire Strays to drop them early as they push into the backline. Closar is kiting back so quickly, though, so easily. Here comes the Eternal Bond, trying to push into the backline. Slowpoke kiting backwards, forces Kaya off the high ground. Ayamagamoto, another beautiful engage by Blacksow. This is why the Strange keeps getting banned, as they catapult themselves in. But Frost Mountain finished off, taken out of the sky mid-ult again. Slowpoke was picked up before they could even use theirs, though, as Fire Stray's defenses are still breaking down. They trade a couple, but overall, this is Shikigami's fight.
Yeah, Strange TP as well, coming on through from Frost Mountain, potentially, as Leolaz is going to have the Ensong Inferno, no strategist ults on the side of Strays, to be able to shut it down just as Nost with the cloak, with that iframe. Here comes the TP on the side of Blacksow, Terror Cape setup from the CD instead, but oh, the counter TP from Frost Mountain is good. Blacksow left behind, has to go back through the portal yet again. That means that he's not in position to try interact with the Ensong Inferno coming on through from Leolaz's side. Lindstrom falls to the Galactic Legend coming on through from Sloppo, and Strays continue to make momentum in this fight.
Frost Mountain, though, not going to be giving up without a fight. Comes in on the Doctor Strange themselves and is putting on quite the operation. Slowpoke up to the high ground to chase down through the Dark Force teleport, following the shadows. And they are clearing up Shikigami. Shikigami not going to have a fight, but they will be forced off the point. 1 minute 56 remaining for Shikigami. That is still good time. They can still potentially triple cap this ahead of Fire Strays. But Fire Strays, they're adjusting. They realize that Shikigami are about to start to be desperate. Will start throwing bodies at this. So Demon is on the Wolverine.
Well, Shikigami not quite in the desperation stages yet. If they lose this next fight, then you're going to be a little bit more worried. Lindstrom has one-sided, uncontested Gambit ult. Frost Mountain actually swapping to the Daredevil as well to perfectly pinpoint where Strays will be. Means that you can see Demon, where he's going to be looking for with that last stand to be able to avoid it, or if you're the Gambit, purify it. As Nami's taking a little bit of damage, still has the Eternal Bond building up. There's the Gambit ult, and this is go sign for Shikigami. Blackside comes on through with an Eye of Agamotto, but Nami's perfectly positioned to be able to cape out of it with Dark Teleportation, and Shikigami's team avoid the stun.
They chase him down. Demon is one of the few remaining bodies on the board. They'll be taken down. Blacksau is up and could try to portal in for a defense here, but their team is extremely staggered. Closar is going over the boundary. They're trying to delay this to give time for the portal, but it's too late. Point already on the board. Blacksau making their way back in manually and forced to retreat out of this. This is Shikigami not just capping the point, but punishing the attempt at stopping them. They get some staggers here, and that's great news for them. 2 minutes on the board to try and finish this push.
Yeah, that's actually really bad for Strays because, like, now you're going up against 2 duelist ults while they also have Eternal Bond. So Frost Mountain, with the Leather Devilite, you can force out Snost's Eternal Bond. Then you can have Leolaz come through with Ensong Inferno afterwards to find the eliminations, or you can just have Name match it, so that Shikigami don't have to get away. Name's gonna go first. Shikigami always a very aggressive team. Snost has to go for the mirror. They're looking for the elimination even through it, though, with Leolaz's Ensong Inferno. Name's the one that falls closer, able to just find the follow-up of Demon's Last Stand, and Strays have been able to keep the Eternal Bond in play longer than Shikigami, allowing them to out-sustain their opponent.
That time is ticking down. Even if Shikigami complete the map at this stage, there's going to be almost no difference in the time bank. But right now, they actually do have to finish the map because Fire Strays are putting on a fight. They build up halfway towards their own invisible boundary. Demons on the white box for some extra defense themselves. Here comes the bad hammer from Kaya into the backline to try and commit for this push to see if they can keep the pressure on. Binary will retreat to make sure that their team is safe. They have the Fluffy Unicorn shield used earlier, but it will be back up shortly for a little bit of extra defense. The Devil's been unleashed. They're going to try and take out Slowbo, who's going to drop the Galactic Legend to chase on down, and Leo gets absolutely decimated from it. They do huge damage on the flank here. There's a Heartbreaker attempt from Isidore, but their team is not there to reinforce them, and Shikigami forced off the point with 30 seconds remaining. Fire looking to take us to a map 4 if Shiki can't get to that point.
It's all about this Gambit ult from Lindstrom now. Can Shikigami get Raging Row Flush up in time? Or will Strays be able to target out the Gambit? I mean, even if you build it up, Closer will have the invisible boundary. Blacksau 2 can just come through with the Eye of Agamotto after you've used the cast of it, as opposed to waiting. There's the Gambit ult, there's the invisible boundary in response. Blacksau makes it through, still holds the Eye of Agamotto. Shikigami have to be so worried about it, they don't know where the Stranger's playing from. Leolaz dodges away, still holds the position, is trying to farm these Vanguards to build up the Dance of the Butterflies, while Frost Mountain goes for the wraparound onto the backline, tries to zone out both of the strategists. Banhammer from Kaya collaborates to take down Closer, and Strays, though, they've still got 2 strategists in the fight. If Snost gets Eternal Bond, they can potentially hold, but someone has to go onto the touch. One's in time, the next one falls, and Strays get pushed out of the hold in OT. And now, Tetcha, we go to extra innings. There's a chance for a draw. There's also a chance that we get to see more of Symbiotic Surface in the OT rounds.
It's down to this. Fire Strays. A draw keeps them in. A win keeps them in. If Shikigami can push a little bit further than Strays with 1 minute for both of these teams on the board, then Strays go home and have to wait for stage 1 to keep that journey going. Shikigami, they see Rad in their future. Rad is waiting for them for the run back. But Fire Strays, they want to take that fairy tale story of Shikigami and put it to an end by keeping themselves in this series.
Shikigami have to be so paranoid about an opening Strange TP coming on through from Blacksau. I mean, it's such a risk, though. If you manage to get it through and you get that instant elimination on the strategist, that's great because you can then just push 6 versus 5. The problem is that if it fails, you don't have the Strange TP for when overtime starts.
My full consent to absorb my abilities.
That is very true. It's a risky situation in these overtime points. Frost Mountain, I thought he was going back to spawn to swap there for a second, but no, he's just having fun with mobility.
The beast is mine.
They're setting themselves up for the defense. Like you say, staying off street at the start. Looks like Blacksau may go for an early portal, taking the risk.
Kaya scouting
but
up.
Kaya spots it, drops some damage. He can't interrupt it, but he does know it's happening. And they pull part way. They were trying to trap him, catch him early, and get early pickup onto this fight. And they've already been able to get Kaya off the board. Beautifully executed by Fire Strays, seeing an advantage and taking it. Now they have a numbers point. pushing onto the point, trying to force everyone off the objective early and grab themselves that first point quickly. Kaya's on their way back on that Deadpool. They'll be able to reinforce quickly, but this was a huge boon for Fire.
Yeah, no ult as well, because you caught Kaya. Binary has the ban hammer, so that Strays can just continue applying pressure on Shikigami, pushing them off of that point, putting the pressure on the strategists, and allowing Strays to walk away with 1, 2, almost 3 ticks of this point. Kaya gets the ban hammer up, but there's no follow-up damage. The rest of Shikigami are still trying to stabilize. They can't find the damage past Plexi Strange Shield. Dagger Dome comes out through from Name. OT actually starts, and Strays now have to make sure that they hold on to this point. That means that they can't back and kite away from Lindstrom's Raging Roll Flush, which is what Shikigami have been holding on for. Out comes the Gambit ult, closer gets the invisible boundary through. Name has Eternal Bond, but you've already lost so many players in this fight. I don't think you commit it, even when you build it up. You might just try to hold on and save it for the next. Slopper uses Galactic Legend. Name falls before the ultimate can come on through, and Strays have bought themselves precious distance on the cut before Shikigami can try to contest it.
That is huge. This first point is very difficult to push, and getting the full wipe here, like you say, means they get huge distance out of this. Fire Strays setting themselves up massively. They've got Eternal Bond, they've got Eye of Agamotto. They have every tool they need to try and stagger Shikigami here. Ensong Inferno and Eternal Bond at the ready, but if they can get Name early, then Fire Strays may have a huge setup here. And you can see Blacksow hovering on the high ground, looking for anyone who steps up out of position. They need to make sure that they stay on the point, though. Nami will get their ult off in time. Nost will match, making sure that both teams have as much healing as possible onto the board. Lindstrom falls early. Aya Magamoto, no one in it. Shikigami evade that beautifully, but Isidore comes in with the Heartbreaker to prevent the follow-up. It's a 3 for 2 as they smash through Shikigami. They smash through Fire, and Shikigami will hold, but that was a good push for Fire.
For 1 minute for Symbiotic Surface, yeah, that was a lot of distance picked up on the side of Fire. It's doable. It's also not drawable now. So we go more maps or we close out the series. Shikigami will determine what option we see occurring in realities. Strays, they're going to be keeping this Strange. I mean, it's a risk, right? Blackside already being on the Strange means that if your Strange isn't one of the first players to fall, you don't get to teleport back in, but because they were able to get a good halfway through second, you know that, like, if Shikigami pick up their first point, they don't get an extension in terms of time bank. Like, you can choose your opportunity to portal back into the fight.
They're starting on the Strange once again for Blacksow. This does mean that in order to portal back in for fights, Blacksow needs to be the one to go down first. If he stays on that point a long time, there's no portal reinforced. That's always the risk of playing Strange in your opening compositions. He's such a strong hero though, so it is going to be a trade-off that Fire Strays are willing to take. Shikigami though, they have access to Strange, they don't start on it, they know they can afford to sacrifice a little bit of time to push in early, and whoever goes down first, that's your Strange player now.
Yeah. Binary doing exactly... Oh, little bit of a pause, but yeah, we're seeing Binary basically do what Kaya did, which is scouting out if Shikigami are committing to that Strange TP, because what you can actually see it does is it forces your strategists on the defense to have to play for, okay, there might be 6 people all of a sudden just jumping me, which is why you're seeing like Snost already in the cloak form. Name was doing the exact same thing, which Strays were taking basic advantage of, wanting to mean that like if they jump through, then you're not in your dagger form, you're not going to be able to heal the rest of your team. So the CD might not become the target, someone else on the team might.
A risk you need to take, obviously. If you are in that cloak form and teleported away, someone else not going to get the healing from you as well. So you're very much redirecting the aggro from any of those engages. But we don't have to worry about that in this case, as Shikigami will not be portal engaging. They are going to be walking in normally. The players are ready, but we'll be jumping back in just a moment. Oh, never mind, it's repaused. We'll be back as soon as the players are ready. We just need to make sure that, especially in such a high pressure situation, that everything is perfect for these players. These are some of the best teams, not just in EMEA, but in the world. And they are fighting for a pretty solid amount of prize money, seeding for stage 1. This is some of the peak of Rivals play. We need to make sure that they have every chance.
I mean, there's going to be chances too for both of these teams. Like 1 minute means that for sure a Deadpool ult will be built up. The question is, which teams will it be? Because like for both of these teams, if you start losing that fight, exit trades are going to be so important because getting the elimination onto that Deadpool, it's the only character in all of Marvel Rivals where if you get the elimination onto them, they lose all of their ult charge. And Banhammer, in these coordinated situations, it's a very impactful ult toucher. It really is, especially when it's like the first built up thing. You don't have Loki in play, so you can't just sort of be like, okay, one of us got hit by the taunt, let's just use regeneration domain and live it. No, you don't even have an ultimate from a strategist a lot of the time built up to be able to survive all of that tick damage.
Yeah, you can either drop it onto a duelist, as we've seen in the past, to try and take it out, especially Star-Lords, as they try to just go in for damage, but more commonly, we'll see it dropped onto a strategist. Like you say, there's no Loki to just sustain through it, so suddenly, if your Invisible Woman wants to heal you, they have to drop a Guardian Shield onto themselves to make sure that that healing output can come in. Cloak has to Dagger Storm themselves just to make sure they can keep healing. And that's not great because you want it to be in the right position sometimes. It's the value that you can see from these Deadpool ultimates can just be game-changing, especially in these overtime situations where it's the quickest thing.
Speaking about like really quick too, this is an overtime situation, which means that Deadpool actually retains all of the upgrades. So when we go back to binary POV, you can actually already see like all of the gold splashes on the weapons. All of those skills are going to be upgraded, which also means that that Banhammer is also going to be upgraded. Like that damage tick, it's going to be absolutely lethal if it gets put onto a strategist early doors and you don't have the means of sustaining through.
Fire Strays in a rough position. Looks like the players are beginning to ready back up, so hopefully we'll be getting in shortly, assuming everything is stable once they hit unpause. But Fire Strays, they are now one defense away from staying in the preseason. Otherwise, like we've said before, they are waiting until stage 1. Shikigami, all they have to do is to get a first point and push just over 101 meters. That's all. Sounds simple. But you've said it before. Pushing first point on Symbiotic Surface is far from simple. It's one of the hardest maps to push that first point because the wide openness of that defensive point is very easy for the defensive side to just take cover, back up, and jump on and off the point to try and claim any advantage they can.
Well, not just first. Like, honestly, first a little bit easier, especially with the addition of Vanguard Deadpool in the mix, right? A lot of the time when you're taking pressure on the defense, you kite behind the point itself. That's perfect position for isolation of the Unicorn Shield coming on out, as we can actually see that in play, right? Demon on the Phoenix is going to have to kite back, reads out that Shikigami are likely going to try and box Trap Strays in that space. Very predictable for the dive to be able to hit from multiple angles with the Daredevil's recon information, and Strays don't want to get caught out losing one of their players early. Kai has already got that first Deadpool ultimate ready to go though, and that's the thing that Shikigami have been waiting for. It's out onto the Invisible Woman. Closer's health just continues to go down and up in an absolute roller coaster of emotions as we get the actual OT. Strays give up 1 tick, give up 2 because they were waiting for Binary to have the Banhammer up and embolden their push from outside of the point back onto it.
Hoffman getting 2v1, but is able to try and pull back, but Blacksow catches them on the way out, drops low himself, which means Hoffman, the first person to go down, will likely have to Strange to reinforce, but is there going to be anything to reinforce? Because Shikigami are annihilated, and Fire Strays taking us to a map number 4. They hold Shikigami off the board, and they are still in this fight.
Clutch potential from Demon on Symbiotic Surface continues. What a play, the patience as well, like the understanding of even if they get some presence on point, as long as it's not a team wipe, as long as our players don't go down, we can give up space. We can let them play for that first Banhammer. We can absorb the pressure coming on through, as long as we scout out where the dive is and we don't have someone fall to the one-sided Daredevil early, it's still going to be winnable. That's what you have to do, taking advantage of the overtime plays in the way that you wouldn't in the usual rounds, where picking up first means, hey, more time bank. more time for you to have to try and hold on to second and potentially gut your ultimate economy to do so.
We gotta call out Slowpo. MVP there, 54-9 with 28 of those being final hits. That is any other 2 players in this lobby added together. Pick any 2. Add their final hits together, it's still not as much as Slowpo. What a performance. That is Fire staying in this series, and we'll have more after this.
Watch out, they're headed our way! Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
Is on. 1,000 gods!
Strays at least making sure that they take a map in this best of 5 to fight back as they fight on for elimination or survival in this case for the preseason playoffs. But the problem is that Shikigami have just gone, let's go Central Park, let's go get our sunglasses, look up to the sky and see loads of people flying around. So Techa, this feels like if there was any map that Shikigami would want to go to as a home ground, it would be this one.
It's kind of where they've just made their little base, isn't it? It's where they first took that map on Na'Vi, where everyone was like, oh, delightful, an Ultron Torch composition. Where did this come from? And since then, they have evolved it. They took an insane series versus Rad off it. This has been the map where you can see Shikigami do some of their craziest work. Bring out a Wolverine that we saw a lot more from Rad than we did from Shiki, but Shiki doing great work with it. However, we'll talk about Wolverine players. Fire Strays have a delightful one of their own. So there is some potential here, but yeah, let's be honest, this is Shikigami's home turf.
Very much so. And for Fire Strays, Moxie, they haven't played it, but I think the one thing in the draft that did a lot for Fire Strays here is protecting that Doctor Strange, because Black Soul got a lot of success with it. The portal play to keep their attacking side going in the first half, and also some major ultimates towards the end of it. It's just so good in their hands that I would imagine that they want to go for a protect again. Maybe Shikigami potentially ban it out earlier than the 4th this time. Seems that could be an option on this map too.
I mean, potentially, but I think if you're Shikigami, like, you're happy with the draft being what it has always been. When you head into Central Park, like, as we've said, at this point, honestly, you know, like, when you have that little, like, lead-in sentence as the map loads in, and it basically says, enter Dracula's fortress. It's gonna be enter Shikigami's fortress to be able to try to get that formula through, because this is very much their home turf.
It's very much their flying castle, so it really is like Shikigami looking to keep this like flying composition working for them. The unfortunate side of it, I guess to an extent, is that we have seen some upsets already, right? Rad liked to play Central Park and got full held against Virtus Pro earlier. So I guess there's a chance here for Fire Strays here, Tetra, because they haven't shown anything on this map. Maybe they play the same comp, maybe they have the answer to it.
They've shown that they're very effective when it comes to these defensive style compositions, including on what we expected to be the defense when it came to the Museum of Contemplation. Unfortunately, that did collapse a bit. But they have had what it takes to pull out some interesting compositions. This is a map where you can do some really good work on defense, and Shikigami have been ever so kind as to give Fire that first defensive position. However, first, everybody now, Elsa Bloodstone, first ban.
See, imagine if this is the one time that they decide to swerve, and we go back to like the Jeff instant ban instead. No, it will be the Elsa continuing true to form into the Gambit, into the Loki ban, into the Gambit save. I mean, honestly, I think we're both sort of like interest peaked for the mid to late aspect of this ban draft more than anything, right? Strays once again going for this Invisible Woman save. Shikigami then going to be coming on for a Loki or a Mantis ban line. And if you're Strays, you're sort of like looking at Shikigami and the way that they played Central Park in the past and probably thinking, is it worth trying to take out things like the Mantis and the Ultron line?
Good question. This is something that they have utilized to extreme effect, but for now, Fire is sticking to their guns, taking out the Invisible Woman, which can be part of that composition very effectively. That Guardian Shield can be great value for flyers like an Ultron if you want to keep in the air and keep a little bit of pressure onto your opponents that way. And Fire, once again, it's the first time that they were able to win a map. It's the first time it worked. Black's out on that Doctor Strange, really proving that they are the master of the mystic arts. And they will secure it for one more time. Potentially 2 more times if they're able to hold this map.
Is this Daredevil ban again coming on through? Like, Daredevil's really, really strong. On Central Park, you have that attacker's right side wraparound rotation where you can like run across the walls and then show up in the defense backline. As we're going to get a rogue save yet again coming on for on the side of Shikigami. They really love this pairing of basically having like that rogue being able to play the neutral team up. The fact as well that Strays are going to be like, okay, we have to ban Venom as well, or we'll be forced into having to run things like the White Fox. And that means that Shikigami now, they won't have the Venom for the soft dive engagements. They also won't be able to play for things like the symbiotic shenanigans, but they do have both the Mantis and the Ultron when they play the defense, as well as the Human Torch.
They have a lot of options in the air and a lot of options on the ground, still having themselves a rogue for a little bit of brawl potential with that Gambit team up for the Hearts as one. So they're going to be able to go for some quick blobs that way. Frost Mountain hovering on that Wolverine, which is something we have seen them bust out on this map in particular, showing just how scary they can be to try and take out attackers and force them out of position. However, in the spawn, obviously there's some question marks here because Leo is currently hovering a Black Panther. Could be, but probably isn't, let's be honest. Fire Strays, though, on the defense, they are rolling out with to be expected, basically. They bring out the Doctor Strange, the Deadpool for that quick ultimate charge, and then their Duelist, they're going to be sticking with Star-Lord in case of flyers, and the Phoenix just because it's 1 solid and 2 a hit scan.
Yeah, I mean, Slowpo on that Starlord will still be problematic for Shikigami, especially if we do see the Ultron composition on their defense. But without the Gambit, it's a little bit more manageable, as Easter on the Thing is just going to be here for a fastball special, throwing Frost Mountain into the whole stack of Strays players. Potentially getting a grab onto someone early, but nope. No player deposited into enemy lines. Strays will be able to keep all 6 up, as they have to now kite out from Shikigami's brawl potential when they make a play for this high ground.
They'll make their way up to the high ground via that little bit of flight that they get on the rope. They push on in, using a little bit of their own damage reduction here to try and protect Kaya as they're forced to pull out that first initial point. But look at the speed of which Binary has charged up. They are asymmetrical Deadpool right now and are already at that first bad hammer. Getting locked down by Isidore though. They can't use it if they're picked off. They're in the book. Focus down. Taken down. What was that?
Okay, so I see that we're not fans of book club coming on through from the side of Shikigami. Binary's probably like, hey, no fair, I'm reading it. As we're going to see Demon manage to just like try to make a play on the side of Strays to equalize things up, but you've lost your Invisible Woman. You're going to have to maybe go for a Strange TP, but there are already 3 ticks about to be just having that full point, and yet no one's going to be able to hold that position on point long enough to get a Strange TP through. Unfortunately for Strays though, did use cooldown. So yet again, we're going to be seeing that map flip attempted Strange TP, catching Shikigami before they get out of castle.
Good news for Binary, he's already up to 38% charge again, and this time the Banhammer will be upgraded. So they are going to have a little bit of extra damage towards the backline of Shikigami, and if they can get this map flip successful, then they're going to have a great position to try and hold Shikigami in spawn. But Black's already being taken down, Kaya making it 2, make it 3, and Shikigami show just why this is their house.
No strategist ults too. On the side of Shikigami, just a heartbreaker coming on through from Isidore, which means that for Strays, like this invisible boundary, it's going to be very flimsy, especially if Name is able to come through with that Eternal Bond. Higher healing output also allows you to go for a Terror Cape follow through. Oh, speaking about follow through, that's the follow through onto Binary, as Frost Mountain with the Wolverine Feral Grab deposits the Deadpool right into the waiting arms of Leolaz on the Phoenix, and Strays lose a player early yet again, potentially even more. So he got, oh, that's Aura. Isidore with the grab onto Black Tower, the cancel onto Eye of Agamotto too, means that we don't see Strays having to force open the space with the Strange CC. They have to rely on the Invisible Boundary and Eternal Bond, as Black Tower's going to fly up, trying to intercept the Endsong Inferno, but Frost Mountain gets there first. Feral grabs the Strange out of position for Leolaz to hit the ground.
Frost Mountain just absolutely popped off, drops an interrupt on 1, but unfortunately it might not be enough. 3 members of Shikigami fall, make it 4, and Fire Strays will finally stabilize. Able to take out the backline to remove the healing. That will force the reset, but the interruption attempt there from Frost Mountain, forcing Black Sound down and then trying to catch Slowpo as well, was huge. Isidore, though, it's time for a Shikigami portal, where they're going for their own incredibly aggressive engage to make sure that they're maximizing use of their time and seeing if they can get a cheeky pickup onto someone right off the bat.
Oh, Terror Cape. Blocked by Strange Shield. Frost Mountain actually falls first. Kaya comes through with the Strangling Prism. Blackside gets a huge Eye of Agamotto stun onto 3, with the Maelstrom of Madness having enough charge to take out 2. Daggers of Danak managing to finish off Leolaz as well, and that was like Shikigami's way of avoiding the poke Starlight against this Phoenix from far. Now you have to walk all the way back into it every single time.
Shikigami, 2 minutes and 36 seconds remaining. That's plenty of time. But they can't get themselves caught out of position. Ultimate charge, this is their best opportunity because Fire Strays are about 50% on basically everything. So it's a neutral engage guaranteed for Shikigami here, as they will be forced to pull on back and play around the corner with these root walls as best as they can. Binary trying to bait them forward up the ramp. It does a great job. Huge amount of damage output going to be coming on in here, but no capitalization yet. Shikigami, they're about to get their ults though, and this is their opportunity to pull the trigger if they don't get caught in a choke point. All grouped up with the sparks, and it's a spark of brilliance coming on in here from Demon, who once again is unleashed and cleans out Shikigami again.
Yeah, big clutch coming on through from Demon. Buys Trace the opportunity to have both strategist ultimates come in full to mirror Shikigami's. Shikigami got a lot of map space last time with Frostmountain swapping to the Daredevil, which meant that Trace had to start scouting out where that rotation could be, forcing the strategist to have to look the other way and potentially allowing Blackside to be vulnerable when Kaya looks for these group wall isolations. So a huge clutch factor from Trace that they're able to win out that fight and have ults to be able to match this next one. Eternal Bond kicks things off. Snost goes in with that mirror, but all eyes are on Lindstrom and Leolas. Up in that sky, Eye of Agamotto comes out, but Kaya is purified with the cast of Lindstrom's ultimate. There's the Galactic Legend. Invisible Boundary comes on through from closer. Demon 2 capitalizing on the plays from Shikigami, not wanting to be caught out in the Invisible Boundary with that slow. Opens them up to being caught by the Phoenix Summon instead. But Shikigami, they've still got the ultimates. This has turned into a brawl, one that they think that they can win. Heartbreaker alongside Let the Devil Out, and Shikigami are still cleaning up players from strays.
Chasing down Binary, trying to force them at least off the point, which they will do so. Black Sow is still brawling, though. Makes their way back onto the point with the Cloak of Levitation to buy a bit more time for the team. Gets bubbled out, though, and focused down. Even with the shielding attempt, was not enough to keep them alive. And now it's all about taking down stragglers. But Binary onto the point with the swords to try and fight in melee. Black Sow does have access to Portal if they want to keep this fight going, and they super do. Trying to keep this fight going. Close's going to be taken down early from Leolas with the Blaster Barrage. Kaya's dropping low as Black Sow returns to the fight again. And this is Fire Strays being extremely persistent. The portal is up. While members go down, they will still be spawning right next to it and be able to keep that healing onto the board. But they might have finally run out of sustain and run out of tools, as we will see Shikigami push on in towards Dracula's castle.
Problem for Strays, though, is that Shikigami won out that fight while charging Lindstrom's ult for this next one. Iso's gonna swap as well onto that Captain America, so maximum amounts of disruption for Strays to have to deal with the Captain America and the Daredevil. This is about to be split, push, dive, all to make sure that Strays can't hold their position and have that front line absorb incoming pressure and channel it back into Strategist ult charge, which means that Lindstrom can just hit with that Gambit ult before Strays have the opportunity to adjust. Don't even need it. Just base dive hit onto the Invisible Woman. Now you've got your Gambit ultimate that forces Nos to have to come through with the Eternal Bond.
I have Agamotto to try and shut it down, but it's a beautiful split by Shikigami to avoid it all. Kaya was struggling prison. They know they're going down, but they try to set up for some kind of counter, but it does not find targets. The Galactic Legend from Leo without the bonus from the Gambit, but it's still a lot of damage output here. Frost Mountain and Isidore, though, are just teaming up together beautifully. Daredevil and Captain America, they unleash the Devil, they unleash the America. They're forced off the point as they go a little bit too deep, and they unleash themselves back to spawn.
Yeah, Freedom Charge, though, is about to come on through from the side of Eastor, so Shikigami will have sustainability to match and fight into this Invisible Boundary. Their hands will be tied. They're going to have to. We're about to go into overtime. They can't just disengage this one. Out comes close as well. Eastor comes on through with that Freedom Charge. Demon actually swapping onto the Wolverine, both for the passive and the pickup potential to drop Shikigami's players off the side of the map. Big Terror Cape from Snost sets up the elimination onto Frost Mountain, and Shikigami just have not got a win condition or a play to be able to get past Ray's front line and onto the point itself. Leolas gets grabbed out by Demon, so no Star-Lord utilizing those iframes to hold down the fort long enough for Captain America to come back through, and Shikigami are held on third, denied the full push. But this is where the problems start, it feels right, right? We're talking about the fact that Shikigami love Central Park. It's not the attacking rounds that they're known for. It's their defense. And already we can see Frost Mountain on the Human Torch.
Yep, we're going back to it. There's the Ultron. They do have access to Mantis if they wanted it. That would be Name potentially swapping over, but that means they would be Gambit Mantis for the setup. But Gambit is very good right now, so that's exactly what they're going to do. thinking about it, they have options if they do wish to switch off Fire Strays. They know that this is going to be a thing. So how do you deal with multiple people in the sky? Answer, you take them out the sky. We're looking at that Wolverine coming in once again, and they've brought the Hulk this time. Not only can the Hulk deliver the Canadian missile in the form of the Wolverine to those flyers to try and catch them out in the air, but the Hulk jumps can actually catch people in midair as well, pre the tenacity changes. So being able to potentially grab these flyers if they try and get onto, if you're able to get into that central courtyard and catch them before they're able to take cover, then you can get some huge value for your team here. Binary, their work's going to be cut out for them, but they can do something incredible here.
Yeah, batter up. We've got fastball special in play. Demon already locked, loaded in Binary's hands. Wait a minute, are we getting strange TP fastball for
Oh my.
strange
Yeah,
TP
they're
up
both
in the
behind.
sky? Are we getting a Wolverine? It's gonna be jumping
no,
them. No,
Wolverine was
Wolverine's already in. As Eastor gets grabbed out, but unfortunately, that portal delay means that Binary's not in time to be able to give the bubble to Demon. So the Unbreakable Guard not going to be there to save the Wolverine. Demon instead swaps onto the Phoenix, but you've still created a lot of space for Strays to be able to work with. Crucially, Shikigami have not been able to tax your walk up with this torch pressure. Now the Starlord can try to get on top of him and look for the one clip, but he gets taken down in the 1v1. This is dangerous for Strays. That was their play with the strange TP. Yet again, they now have to walk through the gauntlet of incoming pressure that Frost Mountain will be cooking up on main.
Staying off the Wolverine here, they are going to stick with Demon, who swapped off after that first initial engage onto the Phoenix to re-engage through the portal with the rest of their team. And then instead going to move over to the Deadpool. Oh no, swapping that to the Venom for Binary. A Black Cell going to be trying to remove some people from the air themselves. With the Thorn, Storm Surge to reach them, and then that Lightning Domain to apply the ground and try and pull them out of the air.
Venom hits the backline, gets slept, gets low, has to use the shield, back out to the rest of the team. Demon's taken high ground position though. Frost Mountain is coming under quite a lot of fire. Binary's back into that backline. Demon wants to try and take advantage of the space that the Venom's creating, but Frost Mountain's being very problematic for this Phoenix to have to deal with. Gets the Bulwark from the Mag. Blackstar's been able to hit the backline alongside the Venom though, and with that awakened state, we'll be able to take Isidore down. And Strays are slowly going to be starting to build this presence on the point. Legolas with Rage of Ultron does mean that Shikigami can make a play for a contest. So Byron's going to throw himself directly at the whole team with the Feast of the Abyss for the anti-heal.
But here comes the Raging Royal Flush. Shikigami are down 2 members, but they want to fight it anyway. Coming on out with as much damage as they can. Isidore dropping low. It's single strategist healing right now. As Leolas is taken down, it's all up to Lindstrom. But with Kaya off the board, they have lost that defense and are forced to back away. Fire Strays break open Shikigami's courtyard and immediately move up to try and send them right back into castle.
Starting to see why that Venom is being banned out usually. When Shikigami play into Central Park, that Feast of the Abyss, the anti-heal, just cuts through the sustain of the Raging Royal Flush, taking 2 players out, so Shikigami could just not get back onto that point. Sloppo's got the Galactic Legend. Leolas goes first though. Rage of Ultron. Sloppo uses the Galactic Legend. Might be able to find an angle to take the Ultron down, but Name with the Soul Resurgence keeps them up. Ensong Inferno though takes the Mantis out of the mix, and Sloppo has been able to infiltrate onto the backline, gets the one clip, Stellar Shift for the auto reload to be able to take down Lindstrom, and Strays continue preserving this momentum, taking us to within 1 fight territory to claim through second.
And immediately Shikigami forced to regroup, forced to re-engage. They have access to that Heartbreaker and almost a Ensong Inferno. On the other side, Fire Strays have basically nothing. They're at 65% towards the Eternal Bot, and that's about it. And if they can take out Venom early, that would be huge. Slowpoke forced to retreat after going in. Heartbreaker comes on out. They're really trying to chase down Binary to punish the Black Cell. Will be the first to fall, though. As Shikigami, even if they win this fight, there's still 2 minutes 40 left to hold for the second point. But it's all one step at a time. Force them back, force the retreat, and they held on to the majority of their ultimate chance there. Only using the Heartbreaker, holding on to the end song.
Yeah, I mean, you also get that one fight win, so you can now play from distance, which is why Strays, they're going to go for the wraparound. They won't walk up from main. They're going to take the left side approach so they have as much cover and avoid the poke pressure as they can. Getting Snoss close enough to be able to use the Eternal Bond to walk the team forward. Ensong Inferno comes on through from Frost Mountain. Snoss actually gets sedated by Name, so you don't have the cloak there to use the Dark Teleportation and fade everyone through the landing. Lindstrom with that Raging Roll flush, not going to be able to save Frost Mountain though, and Shikigami might have to rely on Rage of Ultron late into this fight to stabilize as Binary comes on through with the Feast of the Abyss. The anti-heal is there. Kaya dodges with the Meteor M. Layla's also not at the scene of the crime, above the fight occurring, and that means that Black Sao is tasked with taking the Ultron down. Tries to come on through with the Cape of Levitation, doesn't manage to find the Maelstrom of Madness fully charged on up to take the Ultron down, and Snost falls instead.
Invisible Boundary is charged up though, allowing for the re-engage of Fire Stray. Soul Rejuvenation comes on out from Name to try and counter it. Ayamamoto into the backline is enough to finish off Lindstrom, and Slowpo capitalizing beautifully. They're focused down, but their healing is good as they get into the backline, clean out the defenders, and it looks like this push from Fire Strays may be continuing. They're taking out stragglers. Portal comes back in for another re-engage. Shikigami is so good at keeping these fights going, but they're so staggered. All this does is burn through more time as the doors open, and it's 2 minutes 30.
That's risky as well from Shikigami, because now you don't have a portal for a flip.
That's
You
it.
also potentially now don't have a portal to stop Strays when they're in this last fight territory. Like, Eastor has the Heartbreaker. Strays have to respect the fact that Rogue has the ultimate. Don't want to take too close a fight as Black Side was taking so much poke. But again, no elimination off of the back of this. So as long as Strays don't lose a player, all that's happening right now is that Snost and Closer are gaining ult charge. There's the Heartbreaker coming on through. Attempt to just run directly at Closer, but Binary's done the same. Sans the ultimate, just goes into the backline and finds the trades. Shikigami lose all of their strategists, which means that Strays can just continue holding their presence on the objective behind the Strange Shield.
No one's dealing with Binary. They finally force him to back up, and he just gets healed up, re-engages, and tries to force Frost Mountain to move himself from the board. Demons on the Wolverine now to try and help deal with Isidore when they come back in one more time. Eternal Bond from Snost to create an opening to push them onto the board. Isidore's dropped low, taken down. Meteor M as the objective is right here. Closer barriers, blocks it completely. Slowpo takes down Kaya. Frost Mountain's in the air, but no one's on the point, and we are heading to map number 5.
Okay, little bit of a misplay coming on through from Shikigami. The fact that Binary, like, actually gets away with just going for the dive pretty much alone as well into the triple strategist line and gets literally everybody is wild. Then you have the Eternal Bond, Meteor M comes on through, you have to try and navigate it past the Strange Shield, plus Closer with his own Guardian Shield. I love the bait too. Like, Black Side's like, oh, I have the Seraphim Shield. I go a little bit too far forward so that it wouldn't cover my invis. And Kaya's like, I see an opportunity. Meteor M. And then Closer's like, you have activated my trap card. I cast Guardian Shield, and stops it right in his path.
Beautifully executed by, like you say, Binary was just uncontested back there. That was just like releasing a dog into a pet shop with no staff. That was an incredible amount of damage that was done in the backline. Binary opens that up completely, and this is a beautiful comeback from Fire Strays. We're heading to map number 5, when after those first two, it looked like this might be quite one-sided. Fire Strays, can they close it out and give us our second reverse sweep of the day? You'll have to find out after this break.
Watch out, they're headed our way! Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
The hunt is on. 1,000 gods!
Ten maps of action, and we're still about halfway done for EMEA. So sorry, Americas, you are on the night shift, and I guess Pacific is very glad that they're not playing this week. They're going to be next week. This is going to Celestial Husk as a final map, similar to the last BO5. And might I remind you that the winner of this map, Tetcher, the winner of this series, has to play later today after Team Heretics versus Na'Vi. So they're in for a long day.
Yeah, Rad are waiting for the winner of this. Will it be the team that was in their group, Fire Strays, or will it be Shikigami, the team that sent them to this lower bracket? Stress is what arrives for these two teams as we are heading to the Clintar Celestial Husk for our final map for the second series in a row.
I guess like looking at Fire Strays as being the team that potentially give us our second reverse sweep, Moxie, like which are the players that have like risen to the occasion through each of the maps, right? Because it was such a slow start for them, maps like Museum not going their way, but now they've actually been able to not only bring this back to a 2-all scoreline, but to beat the likes of Shikigami on a map like Central Park. It says a lot.
I mean, binary on the Venom for sure on that last map, Central Park. Third point on absolute fire. Demon had standout moments too on Symbiotic Surface, but as a whole, it's been like a team effort, to be wholly honest. Like, they've been having to beat things like the Gambit Star-Lord with just CD Invisible Woman and just Strange Shields too. Like, the amount of trust that they have in each of these players, understanding like, okay, yeah, if that ultimate comes through, I have to be behind your shield or I will go down and we will lose this fight. But they've been able to pull it off perfectly.
A similar question, Tetcher, like for Shikigami to make sure that they don't get reverse swept here and eliminate for preseason, who are you looking to? Are you looking to the backline, Lindstrom, that experienced player, any of the duelists, cooking with Kaya, the Kaya himself? Like, who is it on your eyes that needs to see Shikigami rise?
It's a really tough question, honestly, because we just came out of a series previously where it was, if you're not picking Gambit, you are losing in this case. They tried some tricks, but Rad tried some tricks, didn't work, had to adjust. Fire are making Gambit look beatable. It's not the auto pick, and they keep doing so. So I'm looking at these compositions where the Gambit has been such a key linchpin, and it's not working yet. Shikigami, in terms of what I think might need to like be different, maybe the front line, but the front line's been so good. The duelists have been great. I don't know what they change here.
I mean, I tell you what, this ban draft is going to be very impactful. So too will be your starting composition on domination. Because if you think that your opponent's going to be coming out on a dive comp and you run the White Fox and then instead come out on a brawl composition, it might be a little bit harder to be able to make work done. But yet again, Strays, they're happy with this. This Invisible Woman first save has been working out absolutely perfectly for them, especially with the follow-up into the Doctor Strange save second. So Shikigami, like here, they have to make this choice. What do you ban out? This is your only opportunity to remove the Doctor Strange before Strays get it through, and there it is. They're okay with letting something like the Loki or the Mantis through. They want to force Strays off this Doctor Strange.
And you know what? Fair. We talk up how good Binary has been on that Venom and how impactful it was last game, but the fact is, if they hadn't had some of those portals, they wouldn't have been there to take those fights, or at least the point wouldn't have been there for them to get some of those delays in. This is Shikigami seeing, hey, we won literally every game where Strange was banned, we've lost every game where Strange wasn't banned. Come see, come sa, let's ban Strange. At least it's a correlation. Let's find out if it's causation.
Yeah, Mantis late ban as well on the side of Shikigami, so Strays can't run the Mantis Ultron composition, as we've seen in triple strat flyer comps that we've seen like on Central Park also fare very, very well into certain maps like Codex here on Celestial Huskers. I don't trust Leolas on this blade. I don't imagine you're actually going to be locking it. Much more so I can see, though, is the Jeff come through since Kaya was able to secure that Venom for the symbiotic shenanigans. But we know what Strays' backline is going to be. At least we know what part of it will be, as Snoss gets his beloved Loki finally through the ban draft at the cost of the Doctor Strange.
But will they play it? As you can see, they're hovering on a couple other options here. The Cloak and Dagger worried about a potential dive. I said you better not for Leo, but honestly prove me wrong. If you are confident enough running a sort of a rollout composition using Jeff Bubble, symbiotic shenanigans, Captain America to just literally run at your opponents until they go to the floor, then you know what, why not? But odds are we're about to see a swap to Phoenix, and there it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I see like one avenue where Blade can work here, and it's using Thousandfold Slash with the anti-heal to just totally make the invisible boundary irrelevant.
Sure.
But no, it's going to be the Phoenix instead. Shikigami, though, will be retaining that Jeff. They've got the symbiotic shenanigans. You've also got the toy box coming on through with the Vanguard Deadpool in action, plus the Gambit and that Star-Lord. As Strays, they've got the Venom, they don't have the Jeff, so Binary's going to be a little bit more fragile in comparison to someone like Kaya. But what you do have is very good follow-up, as they've already been able to take Lindstrom down.
Kaya dropped low with only one strategist worth of healing. They're forced to back up a little bit. Here comes the counter engage from Binary to try and take them off the board here. It's going to be a long fight for first. Lindstrom will be able to make their way back to the point nice and quickly, but with Kaya taken down, that's a 2-for-0 currently. Badhammer comes on out. Binary taken down in exchange by Leo to keep the fight even. Looking to finish off Slowpoke, but they retreat into the Dagger Storm to keep themselves topped up. David goes down. It's a 2-for-2 currently, but Badhammer from Black's out to try and counter it, but they are the one focused down. Demon swaps over to the Daredevil because they realize that their team is getting picked off here, and it's time for a more aggressive rollout once they can all regroup, because Shikigami almost certainly going to be taking first point here, but Binary still trying to argue it.
Eternal Bond, though, that flips things. Strays have one-sided sustainability, and they'll use the Eternal Bond aggressively. Shikigami, like, they know this fight, it's going to be done, at least on the tail end of the Eternal Bond. If Kaya can stay up long enough for Leolas to be able to get the Strange Portal before Strays can get that point cap, it's still fightable for the side of Shikigami. Nami's going to come through with the It's Jeff. We're going to follow Znosk's POV. He's waiting for that Sankyu. Swaps to the Cloak form, but Nami's just going to hold the ult long enough to force Znosk to have to be out of heal state. Sloppo comes on through with the Galactic Legend, catches the backline, and Shikigami in tatters after they've lost out on the Jeff ultimate.
And the first percentage on the board. That was all the first fight of the game. We're going to be here all night. Fire Strays have a beautiful hold, and they've managed to build themselves up to an invisible boundary and a let the devil out. So they have huge defensive tools at the ready, which is great news because Lindstrom is approaching that raging royal flush. So having any kind of ability to just try and delay, try and hold it off is going to be huge for Fire Strays to keep that percentage building. For now, Kaya up to the high ground, looking for an opening, but already being pressured by Black Sound. There's the Puppy Unicorn shield to protect the backline, isolate Kaya, who went for the Feast of the Abyss, but the shield means there's no follow-up here.
Oh, that's invisible boundary out early too, which means that Shikigami, yeah. Raging Royal Flush, Galactic Legend, Strays just instantly lose this fight. This is about just how much stall out you can manage to pull through, since Binaries is going to play Ring Around the Rosies, running around that tree, refusing to go down, slams the ground, gets some shields, stalls out for a few more point percentage, but as Strays have been banned out of the Strange, no teleport play off of the back of it. Shikigami, though, that was like their big strategist ult cycle. Demon with the Let the Devil Out is going to be something that they have to be very aware of. Legolas does have the Endsong Inferno, so could use it to stop the momentum take coming on through from this Daredevil ult when Strays decide that they want to make this first move.
Mountain trying to bait out the Daredevil onto the point, but Slowpoke's already on the flag looking for the backline. Endsong Inferno forced out defensively here, but it might be enough to focus down Demon, who's forced to go into deflex, which does mean they sustain on through, but they take down Legolas with the help of that Let the Devil Out, and Slowpoke continuing the pressure on this flank. Banhammer into the backline to try and focus them down. Frost Mountain forced to retreat for the rest of the team. It's Jeff for the healing output. It's going to grab only Black Cell, but they are able to hold on through the majority of that fight. Not going to be enough for a finishing blow as Binary dives to the backline. It's a 2 versus 4 in the backline of Shikigami, whereas Fire Strays are keeping their own backline alive with the Eternal Bomb, but they've already lost Slowpoke.
Yeah, Slowpoke unfortunately close to Galactic Legend, but not in a position to gain access to that Eternal Bond. Frost Mountain 2 is just spawn camping. Forces out both of the iframe, still has the AoE with the Blaster Barrage, and takes Slowpoke down. So no Galactic Legend, which is massive for the side of Shikigami because they wouldn't have a strategist ult to be able to survive it. By taking out the Star-Lord, Strays don't have the flip potential for their ultimates, and they have to give up this fight, allowing Shikigami, who are in control of the point the whole time, by the way, to barrel towards final fight territory.
And there's no Strange reinforce here, so this is going to have to be an on-foot retake. Fire Strays, they get 1, maybe 2 more fights with these fast rollout characters that they have, like Star-Lord, like Venom, like Daredevil. But Shikigami, they're almost at Raging Royal Flush. They have to only win one of these fights quickly, or maybe a couple with a little bit of a longer duration. They're going to try and force out some of these tools early, with Galactic Legend coming on out, Invisible Boundary having to be used off the objective. Overtime is going to be activated, and Slowpoke does find a wraparound, catches Frost Mountain as their ultimate finishes. A lot of damage onto Kaya, who will just be able to tank that with the help of that Symbiotic Resilience from their own E here to keep them with that bonus health. Slowpoke into the backline. There's that Raging Royal Flush expiring here, so there's nothing left. Name is just going to ult into the backline safely. Not going to go for any of the eats. This Demon dives onto the backline, takes out Lindstrom with the help of Blacksow, and chases the fish. Its greed knows no bounds, but it will be in the spawn and the timeout for at least the moment, as it looks like Fire Strays will likely get the flip here. Shikigami not going down without a fight, because they still have Portal if needed.
Yes, Nost has to come on through with the Eternal Bond too, since
Leo?
It's overtime been going so long. Demons outside of it, though, still goes down. Slowpoke tries to just funnel through some of these players on the sidelines, catches Legolas late, and that's the flip for Strays. But at what cost? Kaya has Feast of the Abyss. There's no Eternal Bond to be able to survive it, so you're looking at just fully dodging the damage in the first place with the Dark Teleportation, but that would force Nost to be in cloak form instead of dagger. Shikigami then can potentially just front load the damage when they know that the heal sustainability will be off of the back of Closer alone.
Nossa staying in that dagger form, though, wants to keep the team topped up. They can't afford to lose anyone early. In comes Kaya, Feast from the Abyss, into the backline. Binary drops low. Closer and Slowpoke barely tanking through and is holding the line, as immediately Fire just aren't healing quick enough. They lose Blacksow. Binaries drops low, barely holding on together. And while all this is happening, ultimates are building for Shikigami. They're approaching Raging Royal Flush at 70%. Fire Strays, no Portal. It's up to Closer and Nos to keep the team topped up, but people are just being taken down one at a time. Closer is basically all that's left in in terms of sustain to hold this fight. Black Stars onto the Captain America to buy time. They're literally just running in circles around the point, but no one can hold it for long enough. Shikigami with the first point in an extremely long first point of this map.
Well, we did say that we would be here quite a long time. It's a good thing you can't draw on on domination, or we might be here for another map still. But no, first round goes in favor of Shikigami, but Strays, they do have ultimates to be able to try to stand up to what is about to be a very aggressive first push. Like, Lindstrom will have the Galactic Legend empowering with that Raging Roar Flush, and that already pretty much good to go. A little bit of poke, boom, Lindstrom has the ultimate to be able to field over to Frost Mountain. As Strays, they've seen like, okay, there's a lot of Venom. We could potentially go for Demon onto this White Fox to be able to use the charm and have the sustainability of a triple strategist line, or we can play to the Wolverine instead. And since it's at the start of the round, Binary had already used ultimate before, well, we're going to have the swap to the Rocket, give the jump boots, and Demon can have that grab potential to pick someone up from Shikigami and carry them even closer to Strays' side.
Demon looking to put the team on his back and the enemies on his claws to get an early pickup at this quick stage. Because if Shikigami win this round, Fire Strays are out of preseason and will have to wait for the main stage one in order to compete again. Immediately Raging Roar Flush, the Invisible Boundary going to be traded on out. No one going down at that first engage. Here comes Galactic Legend from Frost Mountain. Slopo still has theirs, holding on to it though, because there's not going to be a defensive tool left for Shikigami for a little bit, as we're already on 84% for Name, and Slopo are going to drop in immediately to see if they can take the advantage early, but they get hit with a bad hammer, forced to back out of this fight, removing their healing output onto the board. Demon coming into the backline, straggling Prison from Blacksow. Eternal Bonds to try and keep the team alive, but there's no way they're going to hold this now. It's 6 versus 4, and Fire Strays, after a little bit of extra push, are going to force Shikigami off of the point.
Shout out to Strays' backline, also Binary as well, with the Fluffy Unicorn Shield and Loki Regeneration Domain, plus Guardian Shield and just Loki Invis base heals. Being able to kite and survive all of that pressure coming on out from the Galactic Legend of Frost Mountain without having to use their ultimates. And it means that Znost has God of Mischief to be able to survive when Shikigami try to come on through with this Feast of the Abyss, starting off the fight coming out from Kaya, something that Demon does not want to let through, and will just be putting all of the pressure. The Wolverine looking to counter grab the Venom when he decides to show on up. Regeneration Domain's already been burnt. Znost, sensing danger, is going to space off of the high ground, bunker back up towards their side. There's the Feast of the Abyss, but Close has been able to build and secure one of those invisible boundaries. That means that Shikigami just have to get out of there and wait for it to drop. Lindstrom's going to be playing for that Gambit ultimate. Can Znost find the copy? He's done it before. He does it again. And before Lindstrom has his, so Shikigami fully retreat out of the fight before Strays can catch them.
Demon trying to get onto the backline. Last stand used down, but it wasn't enough to finish off any of the members of Shikigami. Fire Strays at 55%, but Shiki Raging Royal Flush for the extra commitment. You can see Demon hovering around the side, not wanting to dive in early, looking to see if they can pick up anyone out of position. Zoppo falls first. Bad Hammer coming on in from Binary, looking for a potential turnaround here, but this is Shikigami looking to try and flip this. A 3-for-1, make it 4. And Shikigami will be flipping this Demon, yet you go for the edge. You don't get staggered. They've got to get themselves off the side of the map so they can rejoin their team later. Going to build a little bit of ult charge for Isidore on the way out. But Fire Strays having Demon staggered so much means a little bit of free charge going over to Shikigami.
Stray should not be shooting at the moment. Nami is so close to Eternal Bond. If you're Strays, you've already got your Groot, you've already got your Stall Adult. There is no reason for you to be doing damage. And if you actually look at Shikigami's health bars, yeah, there's very little actual damage coming on through. So Name's build up towards this Eternal Bond very slow. It's not going to be there for when the fight starts. So you have to space away from the Groot as opposed to relying on the Eternal Bond's CC immunity to dodge out of it. Brilliant play comes on through from the side of Strays. Feral grab as well, connecting onto Shikigami's players, just trying to oust them before the Eternal Bond can allow Shikigami to stall the hold.
Numbers heavily in favor of Fire Strays, but they burn quite a few abilities to utilize this. But Invisible Boundary just around the corner for them. If they can hold out for just a couple more seconds, and they do, meaning Fire Strays are in a great position to potentially try and flip this in a little bit, as Shikigami will reinforce as fast as possible with their very fast-moving members. Leo is taken down early. Frost Mountain trying to mirror, trying to keep this fight going for as long as possible, as Name's Eternal Bond will expire. Frost Mountain will take out Demon to keep this fight going, and this will hold the point for Shikigami, allowing them to take the lead, but numbers are quite heavily in favor of Fire Strays right now, as we see second Invisible Boundary zoning people off the point, and there's the chase, stealing the health pack away from a desperately retreating Name. Beautiful chase from Binary there, as Isidore dropped low, but is healed up full. Ensong Inferno for a finishing blow onto Slowpo, and Leolaz allowing the side of Shikigami to hold this release a little bit longer. Portal comes back in. Shiki looking to end this here and now.
I mean, with Lindstrom's ultimate, they can. It's going to come down to one Raging Roll Flush to end this series. Demon's been scouted out, passive activated. Strays have no choice. They have to walk directly into the Gambit ult, or the OT will burn out. Binary falls. Blackstone's already had to burn through the shields. Snoth not close enough to a God of Mischief copy to be able to gain the upper hand. And that is where the series ends. Shikigami managed to tie us up. 2 rounds of Celestial Husk required to finish out a 5-map series and take us into a rematch of Shikigami versus Rad later.
Oh, that's going to be spectacular. But what a performance from Fire Strays. They are eliminated from the preseason, but we will see them making their return once Stage 1 begins in but a few weeks. But for now, the incredible run of Shikigami will continue through this lower bracket, but they've got quite a few obstacles to go in order to reach those grand finals. They've still got Rad in the run back to face off. They will have either Heretics or Na'Vi to face off against as well, which they've already lost to once each in those group stages. Shikigami, they've got a lot of work ahead of them, but they continue to impress us.
Yeah, I mean, Shikigami, like you said, continuing to go for these like different layers of improvement. I think like one thing for Rad to take away though is that Shikigami, they're beatable, right? Yes. Strays almost were able to complete that win versus them. Did as well, crucially, manage to find blood on Central Park, a map that we were literally talking about before we headed into it. Might as well be renamed Shikigami's Fortress as opposed to Dracula's. So I think there's plenty of opportunity for Rad to just like be sitting here, taking notes, going, okay, this worked here, that didn't work there. Let's make sure that we capitalize on those moments. So that next series, it's going to be a lot closer than it was previously.
You'd hope so. I think with how like Rad are looking, but Shikigami are probably hoping that this next series of Virtus Pro and Na'Vi isn't going to be just a very quick stomp, because they're going to feel like they need their rest back, I think, because Fire Strays did push them all the way till the end. And I think at the very least, Tetra, with all of the focus being on the likes of Elsa and Gambit, sort of goes to show that like Gambit isn't a be-all and end-all when Fire Strays can find out their identity and play around it.
Fire Strays, if there's any legacy other than the fact that they are just that good and they're just going to keep improving before Stage 1, the legacy they have left on this playoff stage is Gambit, like you said, isn't everything. You can win without it, and you can win in style without it. Fire Strays' drafting style is going to keep everything up in the air for this last day of play coming up tomorrow and the last games today. They have kind of just hit everyone with a, oh, everything we thought was real isn't real, now we have problems.
It feels very much in the case of like Fire Strays have certainly moved up to the Cool Boys Club of like a top 6 team, I think. Like it's sort of shown that they belong amongst that conversation with Shikigami and Rad, but I feel like with those two teams in particular that are going to face off later, Moxie, it's a battle of attrition. It's, you could have all of the prep in the world, you could be very well meta-versed or map-specific focused on some of these like compositions and ideas. Now it's a case of, do you have the legs to be able to play when you're all tired, you're exhausted, some elements are going to be tilted. It's a whole different test that the likes of Na'Vi, Heretics, and Virtus Pro at some points have had to deal with themselves, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that like sets a lot of professional players apart. Can you manage to just perform as well at the start of game day as opposed to at the end of it? Because like even looking a little bit forward, right? We have tomorrow, which is where the team that are going to be knocked down to the lower bracket finals have to go through a best of 5 and then play up into a best of 7. So potentially 12 maps of Marvel Rivals back to back for you to have to be able to play. So it is a true testament to what these players are able to go through. And a reminder too that like all of these players pretty much every single day, 2 hours of scrims at least, sometimes double blocks, sometimes even triple blocks. So 6 hours of literally the hardest to play, highest skill level Marvel Rivals that you're doing every single day to get ready to be able to push through these long days like this.
Yeah, it's a test in a very different sort of temperament, but we do have an interview with Vecito coming up before we do get into that upper bracket final. Because we aren't casting that upper bracket final, and I think we'll do the interview, we'll move swiftly up because we have so many games to get through. Na'Vi Heretics, which are you guys going for? I'll start with you, Tetra.
Oh, why? Honestly, Na'Vi really seem like they're starting to figure it out, but I feel like Heretics still have that wildcard factor that could allow them to take, I think, this one, and then I think Na'Vi might be able to come back in the lower bracket. So I'm going to lead... No, swapping it. I'm going with Na'Vi. I think they have what it takes to take them down. Heretics could bring them back in the lower, but I think this one, Na'Vi are just starting to look really stable, which is something we've been looking towards them to do for a bit. So I'm leaning Na'Vi.
And Moxie, the heavens are shining on you right now. What's your prediction?
I mean, like Tesha said, it's really hard to be able to call to the point that you're literally like, oh, I'll go with Na'Vi. Wait a minute, maybe Heretics. Like, I think Na'Vi are hitting their momentum, right? They're going to be coming through from a high. They were able to dispatch Virtus Pro and establish themselves as like one of, if not the top teams in EMEA once more. And like Tetra said, I think that they've worked out a little bit more of how to be able to play the ban draft to their strengths as opposed to like one ban draft to beat all of them. I think what we're seeing from all of these teams is that you have to be very specific, tailoring your ban draft to your opponents.
It's going to be exciting whichever way you look at it, not only with the history of these sort of like Na'Vi Rad players, but also the Bubba Patspin lot. There's been a lot of good best of 5s between them, trading hits either side, but also the likes of Oasis that are coming in. Great interview with him yesterday, where he's really sort of pulling himself into one of the top pro players in the region, despite being sort of the rookie, filling in big shoes, right? With like Ken leaving to go over towards the Americas, which have also got all of their preseason playoffs to work with. Isidore will be here soon. I hope he's not putting on a Deadpool costume, I'll say that much. But at the very least, it's like he's had a good performance today. It's just he must need a breather because it has been a back and forth. And we do have a hold of him now, I believe. So if you can hear us, Isidore, congratulations for getting through a grueling best of 5. And I believe we're going to see him in a second. I'm not too sure. We'll see. Anyway, we'll go from like here at this point. Guys, I think it's like a good look of like for Fire Strays. We'll end on them as we can talk through it. And we'll see how exactly they're going to work.
It's going to be a tough one. Sorry, we heard something from our production there, but did not hear what it was. So we're still waiting to see if we get Isidore or if we are just heading to a break. But either way, I'm just so excited for this rad Shikigami. We're done for the day after this. Us three, you'll be joined by Leg Day, Vodable, and Lemon Kiwi after this. So I am going to wrap myself up nice and cozy in bed. I'm going to throw it on the TV, and I'm going to enjoy some incredible Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, I mean, you've also got Americas that are going on, and I caught like glimpses of it yesterday. I was watching sort of like the Lunex Space Station Gaming, and then I woke up and I saw all of the stuff of, yeah, we lost, and caught the end of Heart of Heaven for that, which... yeah, it would probably be how my games would go, I think, at that sort of level. But there's so much like meta adaptation here, and I think this is sort of something that like we can at least talk from this perspective, guys, where it's like usually we see a lot of different ideas with a meta, but then it tends to just turn into one idea that's copy and pasted across all of the teams, which is usually led with the likes of Na'Vi or Virtus Pro. Here I feel it's the opposite. Everybody had like the same rough idea on how they wanted to start the meta and go from there. and then it sort of divulged. But I'm pretty sure that like we're just going to go straight for a break. We're not going to go for the EC interview, which makes sense. He has to play a game later on today. Yeah, and so we're going to go into the action in the upper bracket. We'll see you guys tomorrow. But like Petra said, we're going to see Lemon, Leg Day, and Vodable taking the action. We'll see you guys very shortly after this break.